from them?
Yeah. So they lease the house and the facilities, and then that one field. And then the rest of it is leased for cattle. And then they do a lot of hay. Not much, you know. A lot of the stuff we started up, they just shut down. It's business, right?
Yeah.
Turned a profit and gave it to the nonprofit. Gave it to his wife's nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim's on, and we'll see who else got this in just a minute. I'm expecting a few more in person.
Yeah. Probably a few more coming. I actually thought it was supposed to be last week.
I did too.
Hello. How we doing?
Yeah, you just went to the last week.
You didn't know about the meeting. I said, I believe it. I didn't close it up. And he said, we didn't cancel it. No.
Not me.
No, he wrote for that. We had only one plan.
No, I thought we had something. Was there?
Right. I thought we did too.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, you know, I told him, I believe. And I said that he didn't see, I didn't say today. Well, we canceled it. This should be the first time we've met since the week. I think it's a little lot better.
So what was your impression, Matthew?
Not.
What was your impression about the changes?
Oh, I like the changes. I think it's in a better format.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little more time to go through the meat and potatoes of it, to be honest with you.
I just think it should be strong. There's.
Well, again, when we first talked about it, it was just a correlation of all these things you guys said. And your way of just gave it away to do
Hello. Hi, everybody. All right, so I see Susan and Bill. What else do we have here? Matt, do we have anybody else here?
Yeah, I'm coming here.
Hi there, Jim. You were not plugged in on your microphone, but we can see and hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Who else do we have here right now besides Bill and Susan?
We're live for the work session, and Thomas is on his way back home to resume note taking and minutes duties. But can everyone see Jim? And hi, Karen. Thank you for coming. Yes, sir. They're different links. I sent that work group link out just a moment ago. Do you see? Text me if you have a problem with that. Sure, thanks. Well, I think this is everyone that I was expecting to see this evening. Thank you all very much for your time and continuing to work on this. Let me grab a couple more documents that we can look at and more about them. These are the meeting minutes for tonight. I can give you one more printout version. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Thank you.
Yes. So let me say, I got edits from Aaron and Bill today, and I went through and made a fair number of changes based on what we sent. So this reflects that. And then this page, the explanation of your suggested changes and which ones I took, and if I didn't, you're just using them all. So that can guide our discussion today. Make sure that looks good and that is which one. Okay. I didn't have a good way of as easily marking up which changes of yours I took.
Yeah, I don't.
I took about half of them on there, and they're in.
All right, well, that was part of it.
It was a blur.
Sorry. I know I felt so bad because I thought I, and then I really like I did one form except that.
That's it's good clear. So if you want to put these side by side, the changes are pretty minor. I didn't want the changes to get lost. So this is just what Bill sent with which ones I took and which ones I didn't, the quick reason why. Yeah. It should have this page. This is what you do. First one. Here you go. That's the first page. And this is the second page.
Okay. What about the other condition?
We're gonna have to look at that. Okay, this is all I got.
Okay, these are just basic, yeah, these are just minor. Pretty much. I'm not.
Okay,
Like
you tell me what you want to work on.
Okay, well, I think it was the other one that more we can do both. I think we got a lot of it.
That's those are the next two. For the 5 minutes.
I've been busy.
Yes. Well, friends, take it away, and we'll do the best we can in the next hour before the full planning commission meeting at 7. I'm happy to make document changes as we go, and I can show that on the screen, or we can talk through some items that we want to identify for the full planning commission. It's really up to you how you want to use the time.
Okay. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have a lot of suggestions that have been sent in. I'd like to go through them. My intention for this meeting was primarily to get any major errors or omissions addressed. That does not mean that we can't include some of these changes that have been recommended. I think some of them make sense. Regardless, I mean, obviously they all make sense, I think, but some of them make sense even at this phase to consider adding them or adopting them. So why don't we go ahead and pull the document up, and let's just get started with, I think Susan was the first one to send out an email. So Susan, do you want to kind of go through, I think you did page by page so that we can, yeah, so we can go ahead and follow through on that. So why don't we go ahead and do that, Susan, with your email first.
Well, okay, I mean, I don't necessarily need to go through this thing page by page. My major issues for errors or omissions were, I think, that it needs to be stated very clearly in the zoning section, but where we started 5 months ago, about the fact that both the zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance state that.
Susan, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick just because I'm having trouble hearing you. Matt, could we move one of the microphones a little bit closer so that I can hear you a little bit better?
That's your choice.
Or that. I'm having trouble hearing you, so I just want to make sure I'm getting what you're saying.
I think that on zoning and the zoning issue, which comes up in, I guess, in the history maybe, you must know what page is on that because you've done it so many times, that it needs to be clearly stated as part of the zoning ordinances that pertain to the town, that both the zoning and subdivision ordinances require second access for any dwellings over 50 units. And so therefore any combination of, even if you put 30 houses on here, that's one way of sneaking past it. But then if you put any housing in the factory itself, that automatically takes in a second access. And there has to be some recognition of the traffic that's going to be generated by any of the non-residential uses in the factory. So any combination of those is going to require a second access, and I think that in all fairness, that needs to be stated loud and clear.
So Susan, the one thing I've been considering that topic because I think somewhere in the document it does mention that that's required, but the need to emphasize that so much, I'm not sure how important that is, only because it's like if we were to take all the zoning ordinances and put it into this document so that there was no question as to what was an option and what wasn't, it would overwhelm the document. Obviously, this one in particular has more pertinence to this situation, but they're going to have to look at whatever zoning ordinances are in place before anybody moves forward with this, and whether it's in this document or not, the zoning ordinance exists and it's there to protect, from having a developer come in and do, a large number of residential units and not having a second access. So I don't know. I guess maybe you can explain to me what the concern would be with someone not seeing it in the initial read through in this document, as far as what the possible negative repercussions could be, because I don't see that there are any likely issues.
Well, there's a real emphasis put on zoning in for the residential areas and the commercial areas, and this is a whole new area of development. And many.
But what is your, I guess my question is, what is your specific concern with that not being more emphasized in this document? What do you see as being a potential issue arising from that not being emphasized?
Because I think it's absolutely germane and relevant to whatever development takes place on the factory side.
Right, but somebody's not going to go in there and develop 100 living units and not put a second access road. They can't. It's against zoning. They would know that before they did that. And if they did do that without putting the second access road, they wouldn't be able to, no one would be able to occupy the units. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I think that a developer is going to know at some point, well before they start getting ready to buy the property, that that's something that they need to do. So I just don't know that that's something we need to really be, you know, over people's heads in this document. I just don't know. I'm asking you to tell me why that's something that we need to emphasize so strongly. And then, and if it makes sense, then we'll add it. But I'm not seeing an issue with them not seeing that kind of repeated, you know, in strong words throughout the document. You see what I'm saying?
So you're already talking about current zoning. And what you're saying is that the zoning on page 21, that it only deals with current zoning and not future development. So then put it into the scenarios. I think that's probably more germane to put them on page 20, 28 and 29 about the scenarios. That's where the second access pertains to, whatever, you know, and I guess that is my third issue, is that for the life of me, I don't understand why these are called traffic scenarios when they're development scenarios that pertain directly to the factory side. To me, it's much more logically sensible to put these back with the section on the tire factory. They pertain to the tire factory.
Let me take one thing at a time so I can make edits if we need to. The place in the document where we have the citation of the 50 home second access piece in our current zoning is on page 40 in site plan review, because it's in the site plan part of the ordinance. The reason that it's not on page 21 is because that section talks about use categories of zoning and not the site plan. And so the subdivision ordinance and site plan review is a little bit different from zoning categories. I put it as, I hope, a fairly strong statement. Importantly, the ordinance has a standard requirement of 2 access roads for developments of 50 or more homes. And I hope that's a pretty firm zoning specification for site plan review.
Okay.
If you think that's not sufficient, you can repeat that elsewhere in the document.
Well, I would suggest I will defer to not putting it in front because that's existing zoning, but I still would like to see it under the mixed use scenario.
Okay, that spoke to another.
Yeah, I put that down too. But
You did.
do it early so that people right off the bat know, you know, this is the site and these are the conditions.
But I'm going to repeat myself here because I'm still not getting a straight answer. What is the issue with somebody not seeing that emphasized or repeated in the document? Like what risk does a town run by not having that strong emphasis? So somebody give me a straight answer on that. And I'll say let's add it, but I don't see the reason.
I agree. It should be repeated. I think it should be stated early and it should be stated again later.
Bill, what I'm asking is why? I need to know why though, and I need to know, like, we're not just going to add verbiage for no reason. Like, there needs to be a reason for it. If there's a good reason, let's do it. But I just need to know why.
You can go first. I'll tell you a lot.
If you don't have it in there, that's going to be a huge red flag because in previous editions and without that, people will think that all the traffic's going to come down to First Street.
You think it's a dangerous problem if that standard is not met, and so it bears repeating.
I do. And I think early. That's what I said.
And I think that's going to lay a lot of fears to people and objections who are concerned about the traffic on First Street.
Okay. I'm not gonna plant my flag on this hill and die here, but I'm still just I'm not seeing, like, they're not gonna put 100 houses in there and not put a second access road. A developer is gonna get sued by the county or the town. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, is it realistic that somebody would just go in there and build 100 houses and not put a second access and get away with it? Like, if that's the case, then okay, then let's put it in there again. But
You're not writing zoning code right now. So, you don't have to have it in here. Well, it's in the document, but it's more important if you are actually writing a zoning code, that we actually had to enumerate exactly the right paragraph. I'm just saying it's not legally binding. But it still have to follow all the town zoning requirements, regardless of whether you set it or not.
But the purpose of this is to be a pitch to the public and to educate whoever wants to develop this area. It seems like that's a very important thing to make it clear.
It's a pretty
To
important
hide
thing.
it doesn't make any
Okay.
sense.
fine. That's a valid argument, and I can get behind that. So let's find some way to sneak that in closer to the beginning of the document, and not sneak it in, but put it in and somewhere that's just, kind of grabs people's attention early on.
So
I think that's a valid.
it's currently in the section that marks conclusion and action, and there's a couple of different points: development process and expectations, rezoning, site plan review.
Yeah.
And I think it's intuitive there. I think it belongs in that section. So then, if you want it to appear earlier, should we be pushing that section up in front?
I'm thinking an executive summary first. Right up front, that we're gonna follow our zoning, especially site plan.
Okay, let's keep. I think that's good. Let's keep moving on. How you doing, Alex?
Hey, Jim, how you doing? Sorry about that.
Okay, Susan, let's keep rolling through your list here.
Well, the only other thing was, and that I explained, why these are traffic scenarios and not development scenarios.
I hear that. Let me put a phrase in the executive summary so we can put that previous issue to bed. So we have, with proper consideration and attention, we can shift the balance from it being a negative feature to a positive one. With proper consideration and careful site plan review, we can make it a positive, but we're not going to violate our site plan review ordinance. Any objections?
That's fine.
Okay, I'll do that. Traffic scenarios versus development scenarios.
Right.
I don't care. It's a heading title.
What does anybody else think? I mean, it seems to me that these, after we've gone through this very excellent description of what's on the history of the traffic side, and then we're talking the tire plan, and then we're talking about what we want it to be, and these are the alternatives for what we want to be on the tire plan. And what's going to be developed there, I would think that is the primary focus. Traffic is an impact of the development. So I've always seen them as development scenarios.
And do they fit better in, so you don't want to put them in the mobility section at all. You want to take this traffic calculation and put it in the section about making a deal. The handshake section, not the pedestrian section.
Yes, I think, to me, that makes more sense, but I defer to other people.
Well, so again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on kind of talking about, like, is this maybe a little bit better? Is it a little bit, like we're past that phase. I mean, you may be right. Maybe some of these suggestions are better, but I kind of alluded to this in my email. When I worked in print and copy for about 12 years, managed a fairly high volume print center, and I would work with people who were, whether they were mother of the bride or somebody who was doing a marketing plan or something, and you could spend, I mean, just incredible amount of time just picking the fonts on something. Like, you can really just kill yourself trying to make everything perfect. At a certain point, you just have to say it's good enough for what it needs to be. and nobody's gonna care one way or the other if it's like, if this is worded this way, or this is worded this way, or this is here, and this is the document works, the document works. So I'm not saying this to discourage us. A lot of this stuff is probably good stuff, and I would have been much more enthusiastic about it at the beginning of the process. But again, I wanted this to be more about, like, what are some major issues? Now, Susan, you brought up the 50 or more units needing a second access. Matt Holt across the way there from you came up with a great argument for that. I think that was maybe what you were getting at, and just not, I wasn't maybe understanding. Great, let's do that. I think it makes sense. But let's not massage this document too much here at this point. Let's focus on things. So
It's your,
I want,
I think it would be a simple thing just to take this pump out and put it in the back of the next section. It's your plan.
Yeah.
For sure.
again, and that may be better for the document, but we're at the stage we're at. I want to focus on things that are going to, like, really cause problems with the document, and moving things around at this point, unless it's like really, really confusing. I don't want to get into that too much.
Yeah, I disagree. I think things need to be in a logical order, and things need to be upfront and right at the bat, rather than just thrown in there altogether. It's far more organized now, and it looks a lot better, but I think the content is really important, and the content should be where it's supposed to be, and not.
Well, Bill, this is the point I've been trying to make for the past almost like 3 weeks now. We're at the end of the process. We have to, like, we don't have but so much time before this meeting's over and we're done. So I want to focus on things that are critical. Again, I don't have any problem if everyone in this room wants to sit down and continue working on this document, take the whatever the original format is that Matt has, and keep editing it and go over it with a fine-tooth comb. I don't care. I think that'd be great, honestly. I think you guys would continue to improve it over time, and then submit it to the town council or planning commission at some point down the road. That's fine. But we're at a point now where we have to move this document to planning commission and then to town council. So we have an hour. Let's focus on things that are critical parts of this document that absolutely need to be fixed. And I hear what you guys are saying. I'm not, it's not that I don't understand what you're saying. It's just that we're past that point now. We're to the point now where we have to finalize this document. And I realize that maybe a month or two ago, you didn't think we were going to get to this point this fast, but that's where we're at now, and we've got to work with that. Okay. So let's focus on things that we absolutely need to change. Now, bring it up, but unless it really makes sense that we absolutely need to change it, I want to keep moving past that.
Moving on this thing and all that, I think we do need to hear everybody's feelings about this. Go on.
Well, I was just gonna say, I had a couple of big picture questions. They're not that big, not that scary, but there are two things I wanted to ask about the document, about the document, not the order of organization.
Okay.
So I sent some comments. A lot of them were like little picky wording things or clarity things, and that made 85% of them.
That's right.
87.2%. Anyway. The two things I wanted to ask, they're not related. So the first one is, you talked about the Scottsville PUD needing to have that kind of zoning in place.
Yeah.
The SPUD as you came up with. My question is whether or not, and I'm not saying in this document, but do you need to have that PUD ordinance written so, as a tool for someone who's going to come in if they decided to go the PUD route with the site? And if so, I think you do. Because you don't want the developer to just invent, you've got to have that zoning in place. So what's the plan for creating that PUD ordinance? Do you have that ready for, is that like in 6 months or?
That is a good question. And this document as written is wishy-washy on that.
Yes.
It doesn't say we will make a PUD ordinance. It says planning commission needs to think about what its zoning approach is going to be. Maybe we do PUD, maybe we do fine-grained mix of zoning from our existing framework. It would be helpful guidance to me if planning commission were to say, yes, we want a PUD, maybe we'll use it on the factory, maybe we won't, but we want to have that tool in our box. Or, no, PUD is too complicated, we don't want to mess with that kind of development review, take it out.
Yeah, I would would say, having dealt with many developers and developments, that it would be good if you went ahead, not now, but wrote the PUD ordinance. And in that, you can incorporate a lot of the things you'd like to see if the factory is starting to develop.
Okay,
Because a developer, when they have to create a new zoning application and they have to invent all this stuff, it's expensive for them. So they run a lot of risk because they're guessing what you want.
yeah,
And so if if you write a good type ordinance that includes what you want, and then a developer comes along and says, great, here's the vehicle. I can use this ready-made vehicle to apply to do this in Scottsville. It will facilitate and increase the likelihood that number one, somebody would try to develop it. Number two, that you would get what you want. And that is code versus what this is, which is more guidance. So I think you should be a little less wishy-washy, to use your own words, and say that you don't have to use it at the title pit.
right.
You could write something, because there are other properties in Scottsville that are vacant. PUDs do not have to be 100 acres. You
Okay.
can have smaller PUDs. So anyway, just maybe, I don't know what you all feel about that, but I think we should maybe be a little stronger in the need for development of that in the next, year or 6 months.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Totally.
Lisa, could I put you on the spot with that? With what you've read about PUD zoning and not making a predetermination on the factory, is it a tool that you would like to have? Would you be willing to spend a few months figuring that out?
Myself?
Yeah.
Sure. So I thought a lot of that is the developer,
We
but we as a town.
we'll make the rule. And then they'll give us a proposal that they think fits within that rule. And then we judge it based on the rules. But if we don't make the rules, they're never.
Okay.
Right. And I think Karen might agree, I think we have a great resource in Albemarle County Community Development
Yeah.
Planners.
They've been doing variations of this for decades now.
Yeah, and I've written PUD ordinances too, so I can help you guys.
So has the PDC.
Yeah, so we have enough knowledge, you don't need a consultant or anything. Okay, and then that second thing was more on, maybe I'm misinterpreting this. This is way in the back on page 43. You don't have to turn to it. I just wrote it. It says, that's one of the actions in the timeline in the short term. It says, it says prioritize filling of existing vacant downtown buildings with new mixed uses.
Yeah.
So was the main point of that statement to just say that you wanted to make sure you didn't forget to focus on the downtown before you ran off and spent all your energy on the fire?
A fairly common piece of community feedback that I heard was, why are you even worried about the factory when there's so many vacant buildings on Main Street?
Okay.
We got to acknowledge that.
Okay, because I had, as I enumerated earlier, a number of thoughts about, I think there are a lot of things that need to be done for that prioritization to be successful.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think we have to get into that detail here, but a little like pet peeve of mine is I read a lot of comprehensive plans that say prioritize this and prioritize that, but they never say how. So it doesn't kind of become meaningless, but I get where you're going with that sentiment now, so
Okay.
you can just leave it, but anyway, I just want to acknowledge that we need to do some really proactive work to make this happen. Not just, say that.
So, and to your previous point, if we want to make the PUD an action item, on the page 38 that talks about going ahead with rezoning, it says create a planned unit development ordinance, but that sentence doesn't have an agent. So say the town should create a planned unit development ordinance.
That would work. And I don't know where you mentioned it elsewhere earlier in the document, you could make it a little stronger maybe.
Okay,
I don't have specific recommendations.
okay, thank you.
Anyway, and I do think the document is so far better than it was. I'm really, really pleased with all the work you all did together.
Well, thank you. Good teamwork.
So those were my two main things. You guys already did a lot of great work on it, and Matt made all my little picky edits pretty much.
well, some of them might have been already covered, but the one that I really feel like needs to be front and center in the beginning is what's going to happen with the factory first, because I think if you're going to have 30 houses or whatever, you need to, it needs to be determined what's going to happen. Is it going to be continued as it is? Is it going to be torn down? Is it going to be apartments? Is it going to be light industry? If you're going to put 30 houses there, you want to know what's next door, and the light, the pollution, the whatever. And I don't think that's clearly in there about the, first of all, we've got to figure out what to do with those old, as you say, mothballed or dilapidated buildings, and then only then should you even look at the housing, because you don't want to have people moving into a place and having that next door. So I think that needs to be somehow strongly worded that that's first has to be determined, and then that's the schedule.
Well, legit. I think that's a good point. I think the way I would word that would be the town will not consider rezoning the 30 acres in front of the tire plant unless there's a plan in place that accounts for the existing tire plant. Because we can't stop them from using that land as zoned currently.
That's good.
And but we can stop it from being rezoned or allowing a special use permit for it. So I think that would be good to say, no special use permits or rezoning will be considered without something to do with taking into account the tire plant.
Right. Yeah. So we're not going back to like the same thing. I think that's good.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a basic question? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. My crazy question is whether or not it would also be acceptable if a developer came along and said, I have a great vision for this site, but I don't want that factory. I want to tear it down and build something new. And is that because it is a different, yes, there's a lot of wonderful breaks there, and it's built like a tank, but is that also okay? If somebody, because it's not like the woolen mills in Charlottesville, it's a factory building.
It's not a historic landmark.
limitations.
It's not legally protected.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
I think the only thing that we don't want to see happen is that 30 acres in front of it being rezoned some sort of residential, and then developed, and then that land behind there just stays as is. I think basically as long as there's a plan for that building that doesn't include just leaving it as is, that makes sense to the town, then there's a possibility that it'd be considered.
Like to see mixed use there, you'd like to see commercial or residential. What are you open to? Live workspaces, blah blah blah. But then it's clear because it could read to the uninitiated that you really want someone to do something with that particular building. When it's more the focus that you want to see a mixed-use commercial enterprise there, so there's some vibrancy and life to that side and adds to the town's economic base.
the site is a problem that we want solved.
Yes, but I don't know if you maybe give that some thought. Pretend you're a developer from out of town and see if you think that they would feel like it's okay to tear down that factory and replace it with the desired uses that you articulate, because the uses are what we're after. Right?
Yes.
Not preserving the old power plant.
Yes, and the feasibility study was a little dubious on that. It was right on the edge of it would be cheaper just to knock it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm all for embodied energy and adaptive use and all those cool things you learn in architecture.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think you want to be, because I just don't want somebody to get the impression that they can't come in and put in something really 21st century there. Because it's hard to reuse buildings, and that one in particular is challenging.
Is there a good place to put that?
Site conditions. We talk about the condition of the building, how it has a sound foundation, roof, and walls. But we could just put a firm sentence on there that said demolition is a feasible option.
I mean, maybe just put in,
With redevelopment,
Yes.
Yeah.
not just.
There you go.
maybe just phrasing it that the tire plant is, the disposition of the tire plant is the primary focus for that area, and that as the tire plant exists, it's not favorable to the town. And then maybe list a few options as far as, renovating, demoing it, maybe listing a few options of things that would be, considered beneficial to the town. And just make it clear that anything is basically better than what it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're open to a lot of ideas.
Really right up front, so the person is like, okay, I'll look into using it, but I don't feel constrained that I can't take it down and bring you the
Right.
uses you want, and the economic benefits, and not be tied to that.
So in the executive summary, to say,
Say more than like the student for more than one.
Yeah.
Summary and then talk about
yeah,
the plant itself.
the town's intent is the redevelopment of the site,
Correct,
either by renovation or demolition.
right.
Yeah.
And
Rather than
rebuild,
it's a plan to say the entire.
not looking for it to just be knocked
And
down.
reuse, just do the land use, but reuse the building for that area.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know if I was a developer, I would just give the town the factory. So,
Well, he's thought about that. He actually did it at one time.
come to town, go see it.
I haven't gotten that offer yet.
Let's think about it. To not only renovate it, but to run it.
Yeah.
People are always saying, look, we got a free building. And they're like, oh, wow, we have this free building.
Yeah, good luck maintaining it.
Yeah, good work. Matt's covered it a little bit, the other ones about the second access, and but I do have concerns about the fact that the town's proposing a second access through a private property, and if that private property person saw this, they would say, well, look, they're planning a road through my farm. And I think we should just take out whether it's Scott's Landing or just say maybe there's another access point. But rather than pinpointing where that second road would go, I would change that. That seems like it's over the boundary as far as small area plan thing.
And
I do kind of agree with that. I think maybe just leaving it at that it needs to be a second access, and leave it to people's imagination to figure out what that would look like.
and take out the map image as well.
Yeah, I would take out that.
Yeah, anything that alludes to us planning use for somebody's private property might smack of something that's not really what we want to, even though that's not what we're going for, but that's what they might take it as.
Okay. Is anyone strongly attached to the little picture of the road and the description? It's 2 sentences about where you could put a road along Scotts Landing Drive. I thought it was helpful to say the town's capital improvement plan does not help to fund. We're not expecting to pay for anybody's access road. Do you want to keep that?
Where, which page was this again?
Take hoping out.
I would on that, like, you were willing to,
Go backward.
yeah.
Okay.
Pay for it.
It's page 20. It's page.
Well, I mean, it also could depreciate the value of that property, because I'm a buyer, let's say Scott said he wants to sell their farm one day. And I'm like, hell, I'm not buying that, because the town says they might put a road in my
Good
farm.
point.
So you've actually depreciated their value.
Okay.
That's a good point.
It's unlikely I'll leave it alone, I wouldn't, yeah.
Matt, I think you're right in that there's some value to that being in there, but I think from the landowner's perspective, I think particularly being is that we're a small town, I think that we may run into some issues with that. So maybe that's something to discuss with, say, maybe the mayor and Jim Bowling, and just see what their thoughts are on ramifications of us putting this in the document. But I'm inclined to say, to agree that may be just implication that even if we don't intend it, it may be taken the wrong way.
And it's not our job to suggest where they put their road. We're telling them that they have to put it, and they can look at the map and figure it out themselves.
They can go to the Scott's family farm and tell them they would like to purchase a piece.
Sure.
whatever, you know.
It's not,
They'll figure that out exactly.
it's not hard to figure out looking at the map.
Look back to Karen's point about what happens with the factories. On page 29, we have in bold face, this plan prefers reuse of existing infrastructure.
That's generally true.
Does that pertain to the factory?
All infrastructure, from gas lines to roads. We value our historic infrastructure and we would prefer to reuse a thing than demolish and rebuild.
But it doesn't refer to the factory.
You could then take, if you're worried about that, you could just say the town of Scottsville prefers.
Yep.
And that would tie it to this plan.
And everything else the same, yes. If you were, as a developer, you truly didn't care, demolish or renovate. We would prefer renovate, right? But if you tell us you can't do it the one way and you can only do it the other, then we're gonna have to take our community interest of redevelopment over preservation of a rec.
Right. Right. It's just a question.
Okay.
But when you talk about infrastructure, not necessarily the factory.
Oh, okay.
My final critical issue, and actually Matt is because he's the one that initiated this, but I think that early in the document should allude to the fact that there needs to be more than just traffic counts, there needs to be a traffic impact analysis, which and spell what that is, because I think traffic count is one thing, but looking at those traffic impact analysis, I mean, you're talking about turns and radiuses and volume of traffic on 20 and places going in and out. And I think if a developer's going to look at this, they're going to have to say that, look, you know, before I do anything, I need to really look at how this would impact this small community with power trucks.
I'm not sure that we have the authority with this document to require a traffic, you know.
We could encourage that, we could suggest it and strongly urge it. Of course, we have authority, but that would come if they come with a plan, I would think. But,
That would also be in the spur.
it would what?
We would absolutely put it in our PUD.
Yeah.
This is a piece of information that we want in order to make a decision.
Oh.
Just like a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, the factory area was zoned the way it was zoned because all the traffic came in through a railroad spur.
Yeah, they didn't need you.
Then they took away the spur, and then the town got impacted by tractor trailers that weren't part of that original design. Theoretically, they should have changed something then and there, but of course, that's what the factory did.
Right, in the town, in the 90s, the town couldn't.
So we do have this situation where it's zoned one way, but that was not zoned for truck traffic.
Yes.
Right.
So that whole zoning is kind of weird to begin with.
Yeah, that's the problem with
That's really not what we're talking about.
non-conformity.
You know, so it's not real. It's not a realistic zoning.
Shoot, okay, so I needed one more thing about renovation. So, Bill, you were asking about is our desire for a formal, professionally engineered traffic impact analysis, is that expectation clear enough in the plan? You think not?
No, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was done. I think there was something at the end about that, but I think it is, again, I think some of these things need to be at the beginning and maybe at the end. Say that, you know, traffic problem, we would leave this to whatever goes on out there. Because, and it's not because of the traffic, you already got plenty of studies about the traffic going down Bird Street and all those other places. But the issue with the tire traffic, go back to the tire traffic, is with the traffic on 20, getting in and out of that turn there. Even right now, would you put a stoplight there or those turns are really tough. They used to take down signs, those trucks would turn and take down signs because it was so narrow.
They hit the side of the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, VDOT needs to look at that. Would they even work with that? Would they require a wider turning radius? Would they require, allow that to happen on 20? Because of, they would stop and go all through town. So that, I think that's part of the analysis, not those numbers. The runway thing might work pretty well, but that might, I don't know if that's going to solve that all the way.
I'm not sure that I see, I mean, I guess maybe the optics look good to have something like that in there saying that, we would strongly encourage the developer to do impact studies. I don't think a developer is going to look at that and be like, oh, okay, I'll do an impact study. I don't think that's going to have any effect on the developer. But, as far as how it's perceived by the town, I think maybe that would be something that would be well received. But I don't know that it has any actual, impact on anything. So, I mean, I don't care. We can put something like that in there. It doesn't really make any difference, but I'm not sure what.
I was just gonna ask about, so VDOT, in the town, VDOT is in charge of all of those things.
Yes.
And so you are saying that you want the developer to do a traffic impact analysis? Like, are you tying it to a particular, like they would have to generate they would have to be generating at least X number of trips per day to trigger that?
Same development standard that you have.
Yeah,
Where it actually,
it's like VDOT calls it substantial impact, 5,000 trips a day. And Albemarle says about 1,000 vehicle trips a day.
And
it's something that would trigger a need for a step.
and we're going to rely on the county planning standard
Okay.
because the building permits are going to come from the county. And then VDOT signs off on the building permits. So it's going to hit the same traffic threshold as if it were anywhere else in the county. And our page 40 says that. We have a paragraph on traffic impact analysis, and we follow Albemarle County policy. So it's the same threshold as if it were anywhere in the county. Bill, the only thing that would make that stronger is it says the town should follow Albemarle County's rule. We could say the town will follow Albemarle County's rule.
You said the town follows.
The town follows this rule. And I don't have any expectation of fighting.
Okay.
Questions?
I think that's fine.
Okay, that's removing the word should on page 40.
And I did mention that one thing that I don't know, it's a critical issue, but I do think the appendices should be the last page. And I guess some people like to have the residents and what to do about it. But I mean, I think most people can figure these things out, residents to do this. I'm not sure that, but it seems like appendix always go at the end.
You want to take page 39 and just make it the last page instead of
the
table being the last
page?
page?
And like I said, I was, what some residents want to do because, this is not for residents.
Yes, it is.
Well, it is a little bit, but I mean, it's not it's not an action manual for residents. I mean, I think, telling residents to plant a garden or volunteer, shop local, but that's nice. But it's like a Chamber of Commerce thing. But anyway, that to me, that's a little
I think it makes a nice last page.
yeah, if it's not paid, maybe.
That's an easy one for you. You can just flip and
Yeah, that'd be easy.
on that.
Just do that inclusion and that.
Okay.
So what are we proposing to do? I'm a little confused. I'm having difficulty hearing, so I'm missing some key words here.
We're gonna move page 39 to the end.
It's got 3 little boxes and 2 photos.
Let me just look here. Let's see. Conclusion and action. You're saying after the appendix?
Just make that page the last page. Because it's like
It is a
That's the
conclusion.
conclusion, so.
Yeah,
it's a finishing touch.
yeah, done it. We're done.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Anything else?
Can I just ask a question? On page 21, the last sentence, can you just explain to me the town's current zoning does not allow any development to match the extent of this character? What you meant by that? I'm reading it, I don't understand it, that's all.
The way that Valley Street looks now, with the mixed use, very little parking, buildings touching each other. If you wanted to build further down East Main Street, duplicating Valley Street, I would have a really hard time permitting it, and it's not by right of way zoning. I can't use our existing zoning to make the block that we have here now. But we say we like it.
That's all I want. The town of Stanford, the same problem, because they have all these historic buildings built up on the street, and
Yeah.
if you just apply modern zoning, they would never have the parking.
Nothing conforms, yeah.
Yeah, so they adopted a new zoning for their downtown that will kind of allow you to do what we just said you can't do and stuff. So that might be something to look into for the future.
I'd love to give that a try. We've got a few examples of it, like we have a waiver of on-street parking requirements written in on Valley Street, and we grandfathered the up-down mixed use. So we've tried it here and there.
Yeah, kind of finesse it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that sounds like a summer planning project for an intern to me.
yeah, it sounds like a great design.
Matt, I'm assuming you saw some of Karen's notes as far as just like little punctuation updates and things like that as well.
I do. I took all of those, and the folks in the room have printouts that I did all of the typographical edits that Bill and Karen did.
Nice.
That's for page 21 where you're now doesn't agree with your book.
Dang
You have the 4,000 square foot minimum lot size and short setbacks encouraged. It should be encouraged because of two things.
it. You're exactly right.
Encouraged.
It's true.
It's not the only one you did make. I didn't like that. So that was really good. And he only had 1 hour.
And that's the grammatical hill I died on.
That's it. I mean, I looked through the whole document, did everything, and answered those questions.
Well,
Good job.
Matt, there's one of the things, a minor thing, but I know it's your thing too, but you know that the page 21 about the historic Scottsville and the segregation and all that.
Yes,
But
sir.
I put that in there directly from our comprehensive plan, and that I think that at least that needs to be in there too. But housing, they can accommodate a variety of housing types of income.
Yeah, I added that sentence.
Okay, I think that's the diversity itself. I mean, I feel like our town is really diverse when it comes to income.
It is.
We have some incredibly wonderful historic homes that are half acres, and then across the street we have some smaller cottages.
Yeah.
And you don't see that in any places. I mean,
No.
You got all these cookie cutter places, so I think that needs to be highlighted. I mean, we got a very interesting community that way.
Agreed. And the diversity of architecture supports social diversity. True.
And if we, we're doing development, to have that variety, we don't have these little townhouses,
Yep.
or little, mansions, and then
I agree.
little project areas.
I added the sentence, housing should accommodate a variety of housing types and incomes.
Then we go.
County housing policy is now moving along those lines too.
Yeah.
That's why I asked about it, that it's clear.
Okay, good. I didn't see that.
On page 29, what was red square?
Yeah, that needs to be-
I took that map out, but the red square is the buildable part of the factory lot that's already cleared.
Oh, look.
That's already what?
That doesn't have trees in it.
It doesn't have trees, it's clear.
Yes.
Maybe need a captain.
Yeah, well, I took that map out because it also has the road and we're not showing it.
This is hard to read.
It is, it's too small in there as it is.
You could move that picture of the river and the captain down. And make this other one a little bigger. I'm sure you take your dad and maybe a picture of that.
Okay.
Do we have anything else?
Well, I was going to bring something up, but it's not major. So don't get mad at me, Jim, okay?
Jeez, Matt.
I know. No.
We'll have the others.
Just a point. We talked throughout this document. The tire factory, of course, comes up many times. And sometimes it's called the Uniroyal Hyson Tire Factory. Sometimes it's called the tire plant. Sometimes it's called the Hyson. Sometimes it's called the factory. Throughout a document, I think you should have first whatever name you want to call it, and then whatever else can be consistent with it. It's the factory or the plant or
Okay,
something. It's just,
no, that's a good point. What's it called?
For the plant or for the factory?
or sometimes it's called the 1944, you know,
That's
tire
that's where
factory.
it
It changes, and I get that every section is made separately.
Right. I mean, you could have
That's
that.
just one thing that should be consistent.
Yeah.
Well,
The longest for what, in town? 23 years? What's it called? Tire plant.
Just the tire plant, that's the same thing.
Okay.
Always just with the tire plant.
Any objections? I can clean that up.
Tire plant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, call it whatever, and then everything after could be.
well, you can lead off typically with you would lead off with the most formal version of the name, and then after that you might shorten it to something, and then just it would be consistent from that point. The tire plant.
Just get the official name, and then everything else, and everything else could be factory, and then you say.
Exactly. Yeah.
White yellow.
Hereafter known as the plant.
Right,
Sure.
and then I have one more thing, and I'm sorry.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I guess it's, I don't have page numbers in my printout, but the West Downtown Scottsville, when it first shows up.
Towards the
They
beginning?
talk about Easter.
Come on. Okay, so page 4,
Okay,
the first mention of a SAP,
yes.
you have it as an initial. I don't know what a SAP is until I go to the next page.
Yep, I,
Right, but I'm just saying, usually again,
Yep.
you spell out the first one,
Yep.
and then use the SAP.
Yeah.
gotcha.
You know, I mean, I got it, I know what it is, but if someone doesn't know what it is, it takes to the next page. to figure it out.
Okay,
So it does reference that in the previous the second paragraph on the page. It does say this West Downtown Small Area Plan provides framework. So maybe after that, put in parentheses or quotations or whatever's appropriate, SAP, so that we can do that later.
okay, I'll do that there. And then,
Well, actually,
then I can just say plan down below.
just to be clear, the West Downtown Small Area Plan is one thing. Here, we're just talking about a small area plan in general, or are we talking about the West Downtown Small Area?
The same thing.
Okay,
The focus of the plan.
okay,
I can do
just
that.
clarify. Yep,
Yep.
sorry.
Okay, and I'll change a few instances of factory.
And this is a really minor too, but on page 10, you do at least make a visual picture of it, of the plan. But you got all this real estate there, you could just take the bottom of the corner picture and just drag it.
Yep.
But it's still hard to read. It's just, you know, you got to identify it on the but
Yeah.
it's kind of-
Yeah, I can go a little bigger on the margins.
Yeah, you
On
got
that-
at least
on that
another
page.
inches to work with that.
I do. I wasn't sure how this was going to print, but it's okay. Okay.
Trying to find, there it is.
Well, and so what might be happening, Matt, what are you creating this document with?
Word.
So when you're converting it from Word to PDF, it's probably converting the image format to something entirely different. And
Yeah,
so
I lose a little bit of image quality when I convert to PDF. I'm making it a high resolution PDF, but it's still like in the printout that I'm looking at, the picture or a zoning map, I can't read the labels.
Right.
well, but what you can do is you can actually, in the final draft, you can actually edit the PDF, remove that image, and drop the original image in after.
Yeah. That's right.
If you're only having that issue with one or two images where it's really bad, then that might be something you do.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I do have high resolution imagery for most of this, so I lose some quality putting it in Word and then converting it.
I've done a lot of document editing, so if you want me to sit down with you one time and just kind of plug in and see if we can fix just a few of those images, or just figure out a file saving or print to PDF format that doesn't have that effect. There's a lot of advanced settings that you can go into and tweak that. I'd be happy to sit down and do that with you.
I'd love that. Take half an hour before town council sees this and get a high resolution document together.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one other thing on page 38, in the rezoning, the first sentence, the town should rezone the site, the partnership and all that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
I almost feel like we lost the point of the town could rezone it, because what we want to do is make sure the tire factory area gets handled first, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word that, but I seem like this, just like we were talking about one thing, and then this thing just like, boom, kind of jumps into.
That was what I
We're just gonna rezone it, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Bill, you had a
I said,
phrase.
yeah, it's in there. I don't know where it is right now. But
Well, is it in the new one?
No,
That's what I said. Here's what I said. If it is determined that the plant can be transformed, the town should rezone the third plant. Because I think it has to be determined, that it can.
that's hard. We
Or that it
want
will
to,
be, or maybe it will be, that the plant will be transformed.
we want to do something.
Yeah, it will be transformed.
But this thing sounds like, okay, we're gonna just do this, and all along, we're talking about, we're gonna do that if this happens, we're gonna do that if this happens. This one just sounds different, but Bill seems like it might work out.
Any suggestions? What little phrase at the beginning of that sentence would say that this is conditional on figuring out some other?
I don't know if the word is conditional, we would say,
Yeah.
that this is our desire,
Yeah.
What'd you say, Bill?
Well, I have, if it is determined that the plant can be transformed, or maybe if it is determined that the plant can and will be transformed.
You mean that's a feasibility question? If it
Yeah.
can be done.
Because of all the environmental issues and other things, damage. And it's in a floodplain, if it can be transformed. I mean, I guess it could be used right now for a warehouse. If it could be transformed, he's got to do all those studies. Or somebody's got to do, I guess, the developer has to do studies. So that's iffy. That's iffy.
Can we say following due diligence?
And explain what that is. I think that might be, as our terminology, due diligence, which is environmental, or as referenced, whatever.
Anyone?
I think that,
It's a pretty important phrase because it affects how strong or conditional of a statement it is.
Is this on your head?
yeah, page 38.
And the paper. Oh, maybe when I
Oh, there it
lost
is.
it. Oh, there it is. Okay, all right. I hit it.
Page 38.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems like paramount.
So this is if somebody is interested in the fire plant versus 30 years in front, is this what?
No, they go together.
It's in the part that's talking about the entire site. And I left it just as the town should, because rezoning is a comprehensive plan goal. We don't want to keep it industrial forever. So we are expecting the zoning to change. So we should rezone, but under what conditions? So it sounds like, I hear the pushback that it's too hasty of a statement to say we should rezone it, because you're worried that that's going to be a unilateral rezoning without doing this due diligence first. So you want to put some condition on that says we're going to figure out some other stuff before we rezone.
What page is this again?
This is page 38 about rezoning. We start off saying the town should rezone the site.
No one's going to read page 38. Don't worry about it.
That's the most important
Page 4 is the implementation.
thing. Gotcha.
Well, I can't just say something like the town will really consider applications
that's something, yeah, no,
I thought the whole thing was that we were gonna rezone this site so that it was ready to be developed.
I mean, a developer would prefer to see that, but there's certain site plan
You
detail.
have
We want to see a little bit of planning on their part before we rezone proactive.
they can't really do all that. So
They will, I'll just tell you from experience, you all have your own experience too, obviously, but it will be a disincentive for a developer to do this site if the zoning is not in place for what you want.
I know this body does
It's
not,
already, you know, you have a site with a lot of difficulties, and there are a lot of similar types of sites and stuff, but this isn't the only site, so I'm saying, like, how do you drive this site to be redeveloped is by making it really easy to do, number one, to develop it. Number two, put in code the things that you want to see on that site, in its zoning.
I know,
So that's my strong recommendation to you,
it's also mine.
if, you know,
This group has been very clear that they want traffic studies, environmental studies, and many other pieces of due diligence figured out before we rezone.
let's take the example of a planned unit development.
Uh-huh.
If someone wants a planned unit development, or it's a by right development with certain uses by special use permit, which you can then enumerate some of the things on that site.
Mhm.
They still have to come in for a hearing. They still have to do a traffic, they still have to do all these things and go through the planning commission and go through town council to get it approved. So it's not a slam dunk.
Right.
They still, so you have the opportunity to address those concerns. So I have rejected planned unit developments, I have rejected SUPs, I have rejected all kinds of things. Because they were causing other conditions that were not acceptable.
Mhm.
So it's not like in the one corner is by right and no public review, and over here is nothing.
So okay, so maybe we're mixing up just the verb in this sentence, where the concern is around the specific rezoning of the site. But what we can do proactively is update our zoning ordinance to provide a better signal to investors that we're willing to consider mixed use. So
I just want to interrupt for a sec to call attention to the time here.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, so we do need to wrap up, guys. So let's make a decision on this real quickly so that we can conclude this.
I think what helps bridge the gap that Karen identified is the 4 words, rezone the tire plant site, can become, the town should modernize its zoning ordinance. We'll do the ordinance cleanups and then we'll take applications on the site. Does that help?
Well, that maybe it's nice to talk about that.
Hey, welcome.
That's an issue that's pretty important.
Why don't we, hey, can I make a suggestion on this? Because we're obviously not going to get this probably resolved in the time we have left. Matt, why don't we just shoot an email out with a recommendation on changes? And let's continue this in an email conversation.
Okay, because we've got folks coming in for the regular meeting
Right.
here now, and we've got discussion time on the agenda. But that narrows it down to just a couple of key issues, and those 5 words are pretty important.
Okay, so let's go ahead and adjourn our meeting so that the regular session can start. And Matt, if you'll shoot an email out with the recommendation that you want to do with changing the wording, and then we can kind of go back and forth on that.
Okay, I'll hit save on what we've been working on now and send that around to everyone.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for participating. This has been really, really good. Great last meeting, and we look forward to working with you guys on other projects in the future.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
Matt, do you want to end this Zoom call? Or are we using a different channel for the full meeting here in a minute? I see we've got Aaron Revere who just jumped on as well here.
I can't tell. Jim, I have a Zoom question for you. When I think you got on first here, did you just use the planning commission link for the regular meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll just leave this on. Then we are, I see Aaron and others on for this evening. We're going to take a 10-minute recess, finishing up our subcommittee work, and we'll start the business meeting here at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to mute the room now.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, Mr. Revere, Mr. Breeden. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Hey, Thomas, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking. Aaron, I think you were here when we took a break earlier, but just Mr. Breeden, to catch you up, we're going to be back on in about 5 minutes here, taking a quick break between the two meetings we had tonight.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. I was just making sure I could connect. I'm going to mute and put it on silent until I see y'all back on. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. You okay there, Stuart?
Hi, can you hear me? Do I have my microphone on?
Yes, you sure do.
Okay, good. I always never quite sure.
How are you this evening?
Good, doing well.
Glad to hear.
Say, Tom, this is a completely unrelated question.
Well, good. Meeting
I should ask Matt about, but I tried to stop into the offices today, and they're closed. But with the opening, with all that work that we did on the Van Cleef Trail weekend, it would be really cool if we could create a more professional looking map of the nature area to put out to people.
I've had a couple people bring to me little clippings of the Scottsville happenings where you told folks to stop by the town office and pick up a map. And it did make me wish that I had something more than a photocopy of a hand-drawn map in which half of the trails are still, dotted lines to show future construction that's now been completed. And
Yeah,
I'm with you. I think that's a good thing to dust off and fix up.
Do we have any sort of like volunteer intern resource kind of things that we might be able to use? Could we, maybe?
Oh, I think that's a great one to just kick to the Parks and Trails Committee, to Dan's group who did the volunteer work there. I think we have folks on some of our other committees who are very adept at, graphic design and that kind of thing. If they need some help there, we can get it to them. But I think he's got plenty of volunteers who know the trails very well and probably made the last map that we use. So that's where I would start, is talk to Dan and see what he knows.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll do that. So I think we're starting to get some critical mass on the on that as a resource for the town. And it would be nice to sort of present it a little bit more professionally.
I agree. I feel a little bit chagrin every time I send somebody off into the woods with a half-drawn, hand-sketched Xeroxed map.
Good luck. See
yeah, exactly.
There's gold in them Nar Hills.
That's right.
All right, thanks.
Sure. No, great idea. I'll keep that at the front of my mind and bring it up with Dan next time I see him.
Okay, I will too.
Great.
Yeah. Thank
Good evening, everyone. We are currently here for the Planning Commission meeting. The time is 7 o'clock. I would like to have a roll call, please. Ms. Farnsworth, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was muted on a different button on my microphone. Sorry. Okay. Start that over again. Ms. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Caltabiano.
Here.
Mr. Peck.
Here.
Ms. Strasner. I believe it is not here yet. And Mr. Tachi.
Well, it's all going to be a lot of blah, 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 blah. But
I am
Mr.
here.
Mutson, your microphone is on. Thank
Sorry.
you very much, Mr. Tachi. All right, you have a quorum.
And there are 8 citizens in the audience, which is a recent record for us. Thank you all for coming out under the circumstances. We also have several folks viewing online, and we're doing this meeting in hybrid form with our continuity of government ordinance. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for masking up. All right, now that we have a quorum, I would like for us to view our agenda and take a vote for an agreement. I'll screen share that. And after everyone's had a moment to look, I would like to hear a motion to approve or deny.
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh, if I could add to that agenda, you have a couple extra minutes in front of you, August 3rd and August 31st to add there in addition to September 8th before you approve that agenda.
That'll get us caught up on those. Okay, do I hear a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? The motion carries with 1 vote.
Say those ayes loud and proud, folks.
Jim, actually, no, not Jim. We review and approval of meeting minutes for August 3rd, August 31st, and September 8th. Has everybody had a moment to read these? Just let me know when you are ready to have a motion.
I move to approve them. I've given them all a read.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Jim, now your turn. Report on relevant actions of council. What have you been up to?
Matt, maybe I'll defer to you on this. I'm not sure that there was anything particularly relevant from town council.
Certainly, sir. Let me change gears and look at that last council meeting agenda. My headspace. Hello, so on camera here. Hi there, my name's Matt Wallace. I'm the Scottsville Town Administrator. I also support the Planning Commission and Town Council meetings at the staff level. Town Council met on September 21st, and one notable item for Planning Commission was the approval and appointment of Mr. Bill Hyson to the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's helpful for information here with this evening's business, but the Planning Commission makes binding decisions in very few things. Most of their decisions go to Town Council for final approval, and in many zoning matters, we have a separate Board of Zoning Appeals that can take citizen appeals if you're unhappy with the decision of the Planning Commission or the Architectural Review Board. So that's a 5-member body that meets only once every 3 months because it rarely has appeal business to hear. So there was a vacancy on that board following the death last year of Mr. Tim Small, and Bill Hyson is appointed to fill out the BZA roster. So they're at full strength now and resuming their regular meetings. The Town Council also worked on some discussion around the town's capital improvement program. That's the 5-year plan looking at big ticket items like buildings, vehicles, fixing up buildings like this one, working on our flood control system, the $10,000 and $100,000 kinds of items where we would tap our reserves or take out loans to pay for things. The town hasn't had an adopted capital improvement plan in a while, and Town Council has a high priority to get that done. That connects to the small area plan that we're going to talk about later in this meeting, where there are items in the small area plan like improving a park that the town would have to budget for in years to come. So we want to get those things lined up, and Town Council is prepared to do that. Does that sound good, Mr. Fauci?
Yes, thank you for filling that in.
All right, thank you very much. So for these next couple sections, I would like to go ahead and make some clarifications for everyone for legality reasons. If you have a comment, concern, or complaint with the gas station or deli section of the newly proposed building, this would be the time to discuss that at the matters from the public not on the agenda. The special use permit that has been used is in regards to the car wash and the drive-through window. Currently, a gas station and deli are by right for a commercial property. So if you would like to speak on the gas station or deli section, now would be the time to speak.
And Josh, if I could just ask real quick before we take public comment with regards to the procedure there on this split meeting, I think it would make sense to take comments from anyone in person first, then defer to our participants here on Zoom. To those of you who are logging in remotely, you will see down at the bottom a participants tab. If you click on that, there's a button to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, Mr. Lawless will see that and call on you accordingly. I do see we have one person on the phone. Ms. Gill, I believe that is you, and I would just say chime in when you feel that your time has come there, and I'm sure you will be correct.
And when making comments, let's be orderly. Everyone will have plenty of time to speak. So I now open it for public comment. Who would like to speak first?
Aaron Rivera,
Okay.
Lindsey Brown, and Jim Tosi.
And if everyone wouldn't mind just giving your name and address for the record so that everybody who's listening online wants to do that.
My name is Eddie Payne, 176 Mountain Vista Road, Scottsville. I was just looking at fossil fuel operations in the Scottsville Alcohol community recently, and just looking at pictures of their facilities and their website.
That's 100% barn.
What popped up was, I don't have the source of this research, but they probably made 40 station to be located 164 feet away from residents, roughly 55 yards. So I'm wondering if Tiger will be that requirement.
What is the nearest residence from the location of the building? Offhand, I don't know. I might table that question until the developer's engineer has a chance to answer it. But that's something that they can look up in the next couple of minutes.
What's his plug here?
Can we have folks, as they stand up, stand a little closer to the microphone?
How about that?
That's still a little, there's another microphone, I think, on the opposite corner that may be in operation, just so that we can hear remotely.
Okay, I'm right on top of it.
No.
I'm not sure that's that's much better.
Yeah, let's do that. We the table here, I'm gonna put the podium in the center. That'll keep us right.
I'm not sure that microphone is actually active because I'm not picking anything up when you get closer to that.
No, I think you're right. We're just on one.
Technical problems.
See my description. This is something for public hearing. You want to just switch off the news just in
And Matt, I'll go ahead and I've got one more question. I'll reserve that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Revere, if you couldn't quite hear, Mr. Payne cited news about 164 feet between a gas station and a house, but he wasn't sure the source of that rule. Yes, sir. Mr. Chambers, thank you for joining us.
Stand somewhere that is close to the microphone.
Seated here, I'll be just fine.
You wouldn't mind saying your name for us and address for the record?
My name is Joe Chambers, Buckingham County, 2016 Ransom Road. Bill, serve on the Buckingham Board of Supervisors. And I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about don't get me wrong, I'm not against progress, but I'm concerned about how progress is made. I'm a former business owner here in Scottsville. Started business here years ago, seeing that bookstore down the street there. And ran into the flood, got me a couple times, but got out of it. But anyhow, I got a lot of history in Scottsville. Started to work here back in '68 when I came to be a man up at Unit Law. And when I'm concerned about the gas station, I've been knowing a lot of business in Buckingham for about 20-something years. They got about 18, 20 people work over there. And over here, they've been in business about probably 13 years, with like maybe 12 or 13 involved. And I wonder what the future will be if a larger gas station come that close to them, you know. Kind of welfare of their team, giving employees and what's done a lot for the county. He have been a great asset to Buckingham. Even during the school, after school, we have school kids so they can work. And I believe if this station comes, it will put them out of business. And I believe in progress, like I said, but I still believe in preserving what you got. And another thing I'm concerned about is the safety up there, for the citizens of this county. You got a lunch business on the right there. You got Route 6. You got the restaurant. You even have main traffic coming in the main road there daily. So I think I look at that safety of people there also. If the station come out right there, no stoplight there. You got 2 intersections coming out. One coming out from the right, 2 from the left, right in the really congested area. I think you take that into consideration. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you will take this consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Matt, can I make one more suggestion as far as the volume? I think folks in the audience are still having trouble hearing. Just make sure that the microphone is directly in front of the speaker, and let's see if that improves it a little bit. I'm getting the gist of what people are saying, but it's hard to hear all the details.
Okay. Who would like to speak next? Mr. Carr?
Tim Carr.
Mm-hmm. Tim Carr, 591 Irish Road, here in Scottsville. Now, I just want to voice my opposition to them going to the proposed site, primarily for traffic and the impact it's going to have both on James River Road and on Valley Street, Scottsville Road intersection there, which is uncontrolled and very difficult to see, especially coming from the other side towards the station. The impact of the bank being across the street on Friday, and they're already backed out all the way to their entrance. It's going to impact people coming in from Charlottesville to the area.
Mask is coming down now.
We're getting some sound from the audience here. Matt, could you mute microphones from the gallery?
Yes.
Thank you.
The other opposition I have is going to be the impact on the parade, because I know they're not going to close on 4th of July. And that is a large area that we use for that day. So when we go to line them up right there, that is going to have an impact on that and the parade going by. So.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Josh, if you're out of comment in the room, we can open it to the floor here on Zoom, and I think you'll get some hands raised. I would remind people online here, if you click the participants button at the bottom, it'll bring up the list of participants on your right, and you can click the raise hand button down there to line up if you have a comment you'd like to add.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for our internet viewers. I would like to remind everyone, let's go one at a time and have decorum. And who would like to speak to us first?
This is Aaron Root.
Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yes, just fine.
Okay, great. My name is Aaron Root. I live in Howardsville and work in the town of Scottsville. So I want to read a couple of concerns that I have about the Tiger Fuel Station. I want to bring to light some environmental, economic, and social impacts that I'm concerned about with implementing the Tiger Fuel Station. I think that growth is good, as was mentioned previously, but we need to be very strategic about our growth. We already have 2 gas stations in less than a mile radius. And I question whether there's been a study completed to warrant another gas station as far as how much traffic we're getting and if another gas station is necessary based on that amount of traffic. I question whether this is a smart long-term growth initiative because if there is not enough traffic to support 3 gas stations, sooner or later, 1 or 2 of those small ones will go out of business, leaving a brownfield site that's not easily resellable. As somebody else mentioned previously, I'm concerned about that intersection, that it cannot handle the potential traffic that this station would bring, in addition to the traffic that Food Lion and the bank already bring to that street. I think that, and this is going outside of the bounds a little bit, but if you would just bear with me as far as in supporting the argument about growth, I think instead we need to support our growth on Main Street, Valley Street, and fill vacant storefronts rather than building new buildings. Regarding the market that's proposed, the majority of people within the area, of course, will lean towards faster food because it's easier. But that will make it even harder for small businesses such as Farmstead, the Bateau, and Barefoot to stay in business during lunchtime, as they've already had to cut down on their hours and what they sell because not as many people are purchasing lunches. In the interest of the health of our community, I would think we would want to support growth that encourages walking and biking, not only for physical health, but also for mental and emotional health, that is known to be supported when walking and biking from interacting with our neighbors. And I based on studies, this putting a third gas station does not support this kind of growth. That is all I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Who else do we have that would like to speak to us? Linda Lawson. All right, Linda, would you like to say something for us?
Hi, I'm the chamber president of Scottsville. I guess my concern is, again, I would reiterate what Aaron has said, that it will affect the small businesses downtown. One comment I heard, oh, it'll make people do better. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we have great businesses downtown. I would like to see people support them more than running to a large corporation. And I think we can do a better job supporting our businesses in Scottsville. Having owned a business in Scottsville previously, I know that is not necessarily the mindset of the people that travel through our town and live in our town, which makes me sad. But as chamber president, I'm very worried about the effects it'll have on small businesses. Again, like Aaron said, the Bateau, the tavern, Barefoot's no longer there, unfortunately. Baines, which is a phenomenal place in our little town for gathering when we can. I'm also worried about uptown businesses. What about Lumpkins and I wish I could remember the name. The hamburger place uptown, those businesses as well, that this big business will definitely affect. A major concern too is that intersection. I don't think we can handle the traffic. If I understand correctly, there will be a diesel area for trucks. If I'm wrong, please correct me. That would encourage big tractor trailers and other trucks to turn at that intersection, which is already dangerous. So I think all that stuff needs to be considered. We really need to support the businesses we have, make them grow, fill our storefronts, make our town, which is historic, stay historic and beautiful.
Thank you very much, Linda. Who else would like to speak?
If we have anybody who is on a phone and cannot raise their hand, speak up now if you'd like to add a comment.
Okay. If there's no, oh, go ahead.
I guess I'll take a shot at it, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Long, and as a former mayor of Scottsville, and I had a Cafe Bocce in Scottsville for 10 years. And back then, we really got behind marrying the history of the town and with what would fit with what came before. And I think that a place like Tiger Fuel, I didn't come for this. I came to support somebody else a little down the line here.
What do you need, Miss Grace?
I'm sorry?
You have a button in there.
This is crosstalk. Matt, can we get a mute on some mics here?
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyhow, Tiger Fuel, anything up there, that seems very overweight for a town like this to me. And I'm speaking from a point of view that I really haven't looked at it, and I didn't come here for this. But yeah, that being said, that's a pretty heavy deal to have to build on a earlier point of view, a pretty heavy theme, commercial theme that we already have here, petroleum and convenience. And what does that really have to do with what we're about here? A little further down the line, we're going to hear from someone that really wants to build, I think, on the history of a building that had life and how to build on that life in a way, a small business and hospitality and real commerce and traffic between people that really appreciate our history coming and going from here. And I'm not sure that's what happens in the larger sense. In the old days, now that I'm an old man, we had, we'd have articles in AAA magazine, and we recognized the town as a national treasure and promoted it as such. And if it fed that, then it was a good thing. And if it did not feed that, then it was not really a great thing. So, we're talking straight ahead commodity with the Tiger Fuel. And like I said, I think it's overweight. It just feels imbalanced for the community. But the car wash is not a bad idea somewhere if it's a smaller one, I would think. But that's all. That's my 2 cents for tonight. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Yes, I'm Brandon Moppin, former town council member, 2010, 2011, 12, 115 Mooresville Road. I do have some concerns on this project, some of which I'm finding out now more than I was earlier. Car wash, I can see Scottsville, been a request even when we was on council, then there was a need, but the size and scope of this project, just by the fact of increasing the size of the pumps to accommodate tractor trailers, that was something of a concern we had back then as well for the safety. And that was just down here, and that was even when Lucky's was open. I'd love to see Scottsville grow. I'd love to see it progress, especially residentially and some more commercial opportunities. But the size and scope of this project, if this was to have come up before me, that with what information I've seen and what I'm hearing opinion-wise, I wouldn't have gone for it. It doesn't fit the town of Scottsville. There's other opportunities to be had here, but as well as safety concerns from some firefighters that have spoken here, personally, I just don't feel that it would be something that would be beneficial to the Scottsville other than just to basically create nothing more than another truck stop. I mean, we've already complained about trucks coming through here slowing down with the increased size of the pumps and the availability. That means more trucks are coming through Scottsville. There's going to be more traffic. And at that intersection, that's a tight intersection even on a good day sometimes, especially around 5 o'clock. I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more of the plans of what Tiger Fuel is proposing. And from there, I'd further cast an opinion otherwise. But at this time, I don't see this as something that would fit Scottsville as the character of what we had then and what the character I see it going on now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll give a final round. Sure. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is John Snoddy. I live at
46 James River Road, which is a half a mile from the proposed site of this Tiger Fuel location. I'm not going to take up a whole lot of your time tonight, but I am in favor of the Tiger Fuel store. I use the intersection that we're all talking about at least twice a day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. And when my wife brought this to my attention, I harbored some of the same concerns that I've heard fellow audience members echo this evening. But I weighed those concerns against my usage of that intersection and my comfort level with the intersection, trying to extrapolate what I see now to what I expect with a Tiger Fuel installation. I also weighed the fact that I know Gordon Sutton of Tiger Fuel, and I've spoken with him about this project. It doesn't take too much time at another Tiger Fuel installation, the one at Mill Creek, for example, to understand that Tiger Fuel is not a fly-by-night organization. They are reputable. They are interested in being good business partners and good community partners. And so weighing those positives against the aforementioned negatives, I am still in favor, almost overwhelmingly in favor of this Tiger Fuel store. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Is there any more public comment?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure. Hi, I'm Stuart Munson. I live at 210 Jackson Street in town. And full disclosure, I'm on the town council and I'm going to be voting on this when it comes up for a vote. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that we as a town don't really have a whole lot of say whether the Tiger Fuel building proceeds, because it's by right use of that land as we have zoned it currently. So we as a town can't tell Tiger Fuel what they can't build there any more than, you know, I can tell you what color you can paint your house, because it's a by right use. What I'd really would love to hear from the public is any thoughts they have, assuming that this is going to go forward, and we don't know yet that it is, so they haven't actually started construction yet, but assuming it goes forward, any thoughts about having a car wash and the drive-through added to it? Because my understanding is that's really all that we can affect at this point.
Stuart, if I could just clear up a little bit about the last point. We're still on the public comment portion of the meeting. We haven't gotten to the public hearing on the special use permits. So that's why we haven't had any discussion yet on that.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I speak? I have my hand raised, but I don't know if it's being seen.
I see it, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Come on back.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question about what Stuart has just said and what he also commented on in the comments, as far as reiterating that we have no control over whether Tiger Fuel will build. It's surprising to me that that the town and town council don't have any say about strategic growth in Scottsville in relation to safety of its residents and business owners, as far as traffic patterns and things such as that, in addition to the construction of a gas station requiring that there's petroleum in the ground. It would be very surprising to me that we don't have any say over whether we think that is environmentally appropriate considering the amount of gas stations we already have. You know, going back to the traffic and going back to what I said previously, I think doing a study on the amount of traffic that comes through and whether it warrants this kind of growth, I think is something that the town needs to take initiative of. I suspect that there is some kind of control over whether it will be built or not. And if there is none, I would suggest that's something for the town to look into, because if the majority of the residents do support it or don't support it, I think it's important to weigh that in the new construction of something as large as this. Thank you.
If I could hold that until the staff report after the applicant's presentation. Sure.
Do we have any more comments regarding either the gas station, deli section of the gas station, or comments in general that are not related to the special use permit? Mr. Payne?
Sorry, I was muted. I'll say one more thing.
Give us just one moment.
I'm sorry?
One moment. We actually had a speaker already.
I'm sorry.
Eddie Payne again. As far as the deli goes, this is what's called the market. I believe that's what photography, calls a deli. Do we know if it's going to be seating inside and outside or neither? I was wondering about that.
We can tag that question for them.
Also have a question about the amount of lighting that will be there. I have a question about, are they going to recycle their water like a lot of car washes do?
So that would actually be a question to say for, for special use, as that will relate to what the application is about.
And I patronize every bit as I can in Scottsville because if you don't, you won't be here. However, it's a chore sometimes lucky. They got 4 pumps, and sometimes I sat there for 20 minutes waiting for the car in front of me to move. So I'd like to see more gas sold somewhere, and competition is good. And then on a final note, since I'm always want to bring up all the old stories, I remember when there was 5 gas stations in Scottsville, less cars. Plain Paving was a well station. We had an Esso and a Republic here, and a Gulf and a Texaco down on Main Street. So less cars back then and more stations, but of course there was a lot of maintenance, mechanical work going on there. The job of a gas station has changed a whole lot. We probably own that.
Thank you. Mr. Long, if you'd like to go ahead and speak, you're welcome to.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just jump in just for a second. That Jimmy Oslin was a wonderful man that lived here for years and years. In the mid-90s, a lot of folks have died off that were have passed, that were townies, people that had grown up in the town as kids, or at least lived here for years and years. And he got, I think that was the intersection he got broadsided on and got killed. And so that was difficult for the town. And amounts of traffic are one thing, but what happens at that corner, it'd be very difficult to see any increase in traffic there without putting a light. And I'm the last person in the world that likes to hang traffic lights in places that you don't need them. But I don't like crossing that intersection when I'm going down James River Road and going that way across 20. And it's a little bit gets jammed up sometimes too. So both those things really, cause concern for, our thought should cause thought to what happens when a gas station is put there. My other thought and only last thought on it is that the comprehensive plan, I worked on that comprehensive plan. I think it's been worked on a lot more since my time, which was quite a while ago. But I don't remember a darn thing about wanting gas stations in town. In fact, there was a car wash that had wanted to be in the entranceway coming down in the entrance corridor and could not get a special use permit for it. So I'm a little perplexed as well as I think Aaron mentioned, why that would not have been anticipated. So when I hear by right, I'm not seeing that as in concert with what I know to be the comprehensive plan. So, but in any case, I think I'll be quiet after that about this matter. Thank you for letting me share again. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to do a final round for comments. If you have anything else you would like to say, please speak now.
Matt, could you take back the speaker view here? We seem to be locked on Mr. Long.
Thank you.
That being said, item number 4, matters from the public not on the agenda, is now closed. We will now open the public hearing for the application of special use permit at 153 James River Road. The special use permit, a little setup, is for the addition of a car wash and a drive-through window for the proposed building. I would ask that we refrain from comments that are not regarding the car wash or drive-through window specifically. And if you have any comments, this is the time we would like to hear it. If our in-person spectators don't have anything they'd like to say, I'm going to open it up to, oh, okay, Mr. Payne.
Matt, we still seem to be stuck on Chris's screen. Are you sure you've taken back that speaker view? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I apologize that I appear to be monopolizing this conversation, but I just have so many thoughts about this, since I'll be voting on it at a future date. So with the gasoline station being built, I'm wondering if the special use permit is denied for whatever reason, if they would continue on with their plans to build a facility without a car wash or a drive-through. Again, I'm concerned about the car wash. Will they recycle? I'm concerned about the maintenance because I think there's 4 different types of car washes. Tiger Fuel runs different stages. Technology has changed. You can do your own or you can drive through. Now I've seen, I guess, 3 of the facilities Tiger Fuel run, and I can say that they appear to be good neighbors. And everything is clean. I'm talking about car washes there because I've seen some car washes in some towns that are maintained, the equipment's run down, etc. We certainly don't want something like that here. In fact, back in the 60s, we had one here that didn't last too long. So I'm also concerned, if they would have an attendant at the car wash. One of their facilities, I think, hands out cleaning materials and towels. They have someone there. Other facilities don't. So would it be manned? And finally,
would it be open 24 hours or whatever their business hours are? I'm not sure what time they close. Maybe they're going to operate 24 hours. I don't know. I'd hate to see it open 24 hours.
I do have a couple answers for you.
Okay.
And they've got a staff report too. So we can get a lot of this. Do you want to wait until the staff report?
Yeah, I can wait.
Okay.
Okay. That's just all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Payne. Mr. Carr?
Jim Carr, 591 Alex Road. Speaking on behalf of the fire department concerning this car wash and the use of the water. I've been a member of the fire department now for 34 years. And those hydrants through there have roughly 2 hours of fire volume available. On 2 separate occasions now, we've had fires within that hydrated area. And after about 2 hours, we lose the hydrant. So it would be very concerning to me with a car wash coming in there on the impact it's going to have and whether or not a study has been done with the county service authority to figure out how that volume is going to be met to enable fire suppression to still be viable.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments from our public? There's a couple in the chat. It's behind you, so bring that to your attention. These are folks who have typed in, maybe they didn't want to speak on the phone or couldn't put unmuted. Can everyone online see the contents of these chat boxes? Do you want to read this into the record? Sure. For those who are on the phone, so Stuart got to describe what he was saying. Nicole says, I will say I'm all for this, car wash and all. Look at the jobs that it will bring. I challenge you, go to Scottsville early in the morning and sit and watch how bad the traffic is. Trying to get gas from Lucky's is crazy. Nicole, for the record, if you could type into the chat where you live, that would help the clerk keep the minutes. If you're comfortable putting your address in, please do. Otherwise, just say whether you live in town or not. Tamara says, I feel Scottsville needs a car wash and the elders need to let Scottsville grow. Again, Tamara, please type in where you live, either your address or at least in town, out of town. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now I will open this up to our current viewers. Aaron, you have your hand up? Okay.
Aaron, sorry, you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Aside from what I feel personally, I do think that as a town that takes pride in being a river city, in relation to the James River and the being in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, I wonder if there's been any consideration taken in the environmental impact of car washes. Of course, the question about water being recycled has been brought up. I also, whenever I go through the car wash at Mill Creek, I always, am thinking about what the detergents are doing to the quality of our groundwater and, the runoff. And so I wonder if there's been any kind of study, and if Tiger Fuel has done any study, if they can bring that to the town so that we can understand completely the environmental impacts those detergents have. Thank you.
All right, do I have anyone else for public comment? Okay, thank you all. Oh, would you be able to scroll down to see possible hand phrase?
Oh, sure.
I believe that the names jumped to the top when they raised their hand.
Yeah. Okay, that looks good.
All right, if there is no more public comment, I'll give it another round. Okay.
Hey folks, John Snoddy again, 46 James River Road. Again, a half mile from where this special use permit might be used. I am in favor of the car wash. It doesn't take too much time going through any of Tiger Fuel's car washes, which I do fairly frequently, to understand that this is not the mom and pop car wash of the past where people dropped the trash on the ground and it never got picked up, and the car washes deteriorated and they grew from car washes into hangout spots for local ne'er-do-wells. That's not the business that Tiger Fuel is running. That type of operation is a negative to the community for sure, but it's also a negative for the business because it leads to vandalism and loitering and theft. And so if the community is concerned about that, be assured that Tiger Fuel is also concerned about that, probably more so. Knowing that, I am in favor of the special use permit for the car wash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris again. I don't know if I should even be speaking. I'm not a resident here now. But if I may, yeah, that Tiger Fuel, they're fantastic. They just, they care about everybody deeply, like Monsanto cares about everybody very deeply too. They're really concerned about what they put in the ground, like not even. And I don't know what loitering or any of that kind of thing has to do with the environmental effect of a car wash. I'm kind of with Aaron again here. Sorry, Aaron, keep picking on you in a positive way, I think, but I don't know what you're talking about by, it's not clear to me what car wash means. I think Scottsville could use a place you pull in and turn on one of those spray hoses. And, but I'm not sure a full-scale car wash is really, again, a good fit for this kind of community, a small community. Thanks. So I guess I have to ask, what does it mean, car wash?
I can do a zoning definition.
Chris, are you looking for a zoning definition or are you looking for what kind of car wash are they going to be?
No, I know that car washes wash cars. I mean, like, is it one of those little boxes you pull into, or
So,
what is it? What does it mean, car wash? Yeah.
They have, it's 4 bins, one automated, and the others are where it's a manual wash, so you would spray it yourself.
We've generated a bunch of questions that I think they can answer in their presentation, plus staff can answer in staff.
I personally think Scottsville could use a small scaled car wash or some way to wash a car.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do the last round of comments, and I don't see anyone who can comment. I'm going to close. Going once, twice. Okay. I hereby close the public hearing on application for special use permit at 153 James River Road regarding the car wash and drive-through window. All right. Planning Commission, I would ask that you discuss the special use permit. Please refrain from comments not regarding the car wash or the drive-through window. So only those two specific items. Do we still have Jim and Lindsay?
Oh, yes, Jim is still here.
I'm here.
Okay.
So as far as the discussion, I think it would be beneficial for the folks in the audience and online who would like to know more and have some of their questions answered. Can we have Paul come on and talk about the plan?
Absolutely. We didn't probably have anywhere on the agenda, but we're all in there.
Yeah.
So would you be able to give them a nice info?
If you'd like to, do you want to repeat the developer presentation to help answer some of the questions? Okay.
I think it's worthwhile for folks that didn't see the paperwork.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna share the application and presentation, and then invite Aaron Revere, Justin Schimpf, and Kelsey Schlein, representing the applicant, to speak to some of the questions that have been asked. Yeah. Paul Revere. He's never had that happen. Okay. So the if I could introduce this real briefly, the special use permit application is for the car wash use and the drive-in window use. We had some discussion around the gas station and the restaurant being by right, and the question raised, like, well, isn't there anything else that can be done to regulate how this is built? There absolutely is, from state level environmental permits on how gas station tanks go in the ground to Virginia Department of Transportation inspecting the safety of an intersection, to Albemarle County building official issuing building permits. So those are layers of regulation that I don't control. I don't issue the permits for gas tanks or curb cuts, but that regulation does exist. And the engineers can answer some more questions about how they work with those other agencies. And I can talk some about how I work with them. But our zoning, as Mr. Peck said, does allow the gas station use and the restaurant use by right. So we have the application for the special use permit for the car wash and the driving window. And the applicant should speak to, if the SUP is denied, would they proceed with the by right uses? But they can talk about that. So we got the cover page from them, a narrative of how they do their business, and this site plan, as well as some further detail that they'll walk through here. So let me turn it over to Mr. Revere, Ms. Schlein, and Mr. Schimpf on audio now, please.
Thank you, Matt. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Appreciate you all having us here tonight and a chance to talk about the project. Evening, Chairman Peck, fellow commissioners, staff, and public at large. We appreciate your time and consideration this evening with our SUP request for the car wash and a drive-through / pickup window as part of our market plans. My name is Aaron Revere, and I'm the authorized representative with Tiger Fuel, helping advance this project. And of course, Matt, thank you and staff for helping guide us through this process. As Matt said, several of my colleagues are online as well, engineers, as well as Gordon Sutton with Tiger Fuel, who is also available to talk to. I made notes during both earlier parts of the agenda tonight, and I'm going to do my very best to address an array of comments as we kind of go through the plan. I'm sure I will miss some, and happy to kind of go back and address those. I think a lot of the comments will be addressed throughout this plan and should be helpful, but I'm sure I'll miss some, and we can touch on them. But I'm making notes, and I'll go through with that. Matt, or comments, I'm not sure if one of y'all is driving, but we could go ahead to the next slide if possible. Thank you. So this is just a quick overview slide showing the site's location. I think everybody knows where it is. But we're requesting the inclusion of a car wash and a drive-through / pickup window within our market plans. The parcel is zoned commercial, and we have commercial uses adjacent and across James River Road, and there's a residential parcel to the east. Our intent is to redevelop this site with complementary uses to that James River corridor, in hopes to maintain a balance with those other commercial uses and the character around us. The one thing is the utilities are already here, and our understanding is ample capacity for our project. I noted the comment that Mr. Carr made from the fire department earlier about water volume and usage and that kind of stuff. So that'll be one that we'll want to run down to make sure we're not talking about different lines or other things to understand that better. So I can't put a nail in the head, nail that one down right this second. We can going forward, and have noted that. Next slide, if you will, that just gives the location. This gives you a quick idea of what we're talking about here before we get into the details of the site plan. The architectural vision, if you will. This image is actually the market we recently opened up in Ruckersville, and we believe a similar market here with appropriate rural character, collaborative siding, appropriate roof lines and details. A gentleman nicely asked earlier about seating. We envision indoor and outdoor seating at the facility. That's always been important to us, but I think even more so today, it's important to have a variety of seating as well. The bottom picture shows a little bit of the car wash, so that you can see that it is a car wash that you can spray yourself, as well as some automated versions, but I'll get into that. The final design of the site will go through, as Matt mentioned, site plan review as well as the ARB process, because there's entry corridor. We're going to be caring about lighting, landscaping, and all of those details here as well. But right now we were focused on the site plan. Next slide, if you will. This is the image Matt showed just recently, where you see there is a service station in the market shown in orange. We have a propane refill station, then the drive-through lane and the car wash for that. I'd like to go ahead and note before we go to the next slide that a few things. These are retail gas and diesel pumps. There was a lot of discussion earlier in the meeting about size and scale and scope of the project, and worried about trucks. These are diesel pumps. These are diesel pumps not to serve large tractor trailers. These are not high-speed, high-pump diesels. The site's not designed for tractor trailers to come in or any of that things, and that's not a market here anyway. So we're not creating a truck stop. But if you are driving a nice Cummins diesel, please come and fill up right here. It's a wonderful spot as well for other diesel vehicles. The propane tank will be here to help fill not only your barbecue grill, but there's plenty of contractors who use propane to heat things in the winter when they're cold. Simple as that. Next slide, if you will, Matt. Well, while you're on that, the 4 bays, 3 self-serve and an automated. The self-serve are the ones where you use the wand and hose it yourself so that you can get up under there and get the mud off and hose your vehicle and that type of thing. There is one automated one because there are folks who would rather not get out of their car but still have a clean car. So we'll have each of those. And I'll get into details about the water recycling and water use as well here. And then some vacuums to vacuum out your vehicles afterwards. Okay, this is the next slide. This is where we're just focusing in on the purpose of our meeting tonight, the actual SUP request. And technically the car wash and a drive-through or pickup window are not by right. They are planned for and envisioned in the zoning code, but they need to be authorized under the SUP, and hence the reason for us to be here this evening. We're not in a historic district, so that makes it a lot easier as well. What we wanted to show here to go with the pickup window and the car wash is there's ample circulation within the site and the layout here for people to get around and function without impeding the other uses on the site and without impacting off-site as well. So that was a key request when we started talking about the drive-through or pickup window. We are still working through the operational logistics, thinking through something like a drive-through or pickup window, but we think it may be a useful feature going forward in the post-COVID world. We can imagine where you could pre-order on an app and notify when you're there and just pick it up on your window as you come by to make the freshly prepared foods a little bit more accessible and convenient for people, especially people concerned about going in and out of facilities. We feel very certain about car washes in the facility, and we've heard a lot of positive comments on this as we've explored this over the last few months. And again, these are ones that will allow you to not only wash off your truck, but your bikes, your trailers, and other equipments that, as you so choose. The next slide, sorry, I was just double checking. I'm trying to go back and compare comments in my notes here as well as we go along. So just wanted to give you a little bit more additional details about the overall project besides just what you see on the maps and besides the layout and location. I think a lot of people do know Tiger Fuel, and again, Gordon Sutton, who president of Tiger Fuel, is available to talk this evening as well. He's on. But they are locally owned and operated, and they have a lot of community-focused people, some of which live right there in Scottsville. Their headquarters are in Charlottesville. Currently, they're operating 9 convenience stores, 10 car washes, and employ 270 members. If we can get this spot open, it'll get closer to 300. We think this facility will employ some 24 folks on this. There were questions asked about manning the attendant and everything at the car wash. Yeah, there will be a person on site while features are open, because a lot of things need service, whether that's coming into the retail center, help refilling a propane tank, or otherwise. So that we'll have people on site. Again, it is a redevelopment opportunity, so there are existing utilities. So it is not a green field, it's not a raw field. We're not reducing farm field. We think all of that is important, and we appreciate a lot of the comments that were made that relates to triple bottom line and sustainability by Mrs. Root earlier as well. So we like that aspect of the property. There are several comments about recycling water, and absolutely, we want to make the best use of every water drop we have. And so we put a lot of good things in place. A lot of these are state regulations anyway, and a lot of what we do is beyond state regulations anyway. So we are recycling our water, and we are working to make sure that water is clean and appropriate for when any water is ever discharged. All the products we use for these car washes are phosphate free. We do care about the bay. We know that there's a maximum daily load for nutrients and nitrogen for the entire Chesapeake Bay and the James River watershed, and we've worked that all the time. So they are phosphate free, and we're not adding additional nutrients to the water. And the packaging comes nice, which helps us reduce our waste and disposal costs as well. We've talked about the 3 self-serve bays and muddy vehicles, and then of course an automated bay option. When you look at the site plan, you see it looks like 5 bays. It's really like 4.5. That's because in the middle we have a self-enclosed equipment room to help take care of the equipment that is running those bays, and we locate the dryers for that automated bay in bay so that it's not noise outside. It's in bay. Again, we'll keep with that architecture and neutral tones and aesthetic. We care very much about light pollution and night sky, and so we use down lighting to minimize light trespass and whatever is minimum required. But we do have minimum requirements because we have, safety concerns for people who get in and out of their vehicles, come into the store, as well as managing security and other things. So, and we care about the landscaping too. We look into things like native planting, drought resistant planting, things that are low maintenance. That is not only good for the local environment, but it's also good for us and how we maintain it too. So we get that. Next slide has a few more details if you could. Jobs. couple dozen jobs with benefits. It's important. And if you have more questions about that, I'm sure Gordon would be happy to talk with you all about the details on these jobs. Hours of operation, 5 to 11 for the convenience and propane, and the others, 24 hours, like the other gas stations that have been referenced in town. You can, after hours, use your credit card and fill up your car. We clean our sites daily. There were some comments before about that, and we appreciated that people have noticed, but we're going to clean this place up every day and take care of it. We want you coming back, and we're proud of our locations, so we'll clean it daily. The full market with deli, inside and outside seating. So if you're not familiar with Tiger Fuel and our food, we'd love to have you come and visit one of our other markets. We like to prepare our food fresh. We have a variety of options, but every sandwich that we do is made to order, and a lot of the things that we buy and sell in our stores are procured locally. So we're proud of that. Let's see, I was looking back at the bullets as you were scanning around. Thank you. Yeah, so we spoke to gas and diesel and that propane refilling, we spoke to that. And if you scan back to the right for me, you'll see that's the Ruckersville picture that was recently opened. We have solar panels on top of our canopies. We do care about these things. That gives you a sense of that facility. That is located up on a busier road. So it's a little bit different orientation and layout than we have proposed here, but gives you a sense of some of the things we're doing there, as well as the foods that we have. The other things that we do environmentally, not only do we look at solar panels, we have considered and discussed whether or not it would make sense to have an EV charger at this location. We're not certain. We're not certain if there's a market in a demand with electric vehicles here, but of course we'd have the space should that ever be needed. But we are putting those in locations where it makes sense. And we do reforestation efforts at the pump. And if you're not familiar with that, it lets you essentially plant a tree to help offset your gases because you're refilling your car. You have to refill your car because you have to go to your job and make money and feed your family. But you have a chance, if you care about that, to help offset your impacts on air quality and those things. So somewhat comprehensive here, but for us, we think being able to include that pickup window and to be able to offer a car wash service as part of this facility is important to us. It allows a full kind of package in staffing for us. And with that, I am happy to go back through any new questions that I may have triggered or readdress some that I may have overlooked as I kind of went through my notes on this. So back to you, Matt.
Mr. Revere, can I point out a couple of things and make sure we get some questions answered?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
About the large truck and the diesel, what is the height of this canopy over the diesel pumps? What's the largest vehicle that could get in there?
I would have to ask my colleagues if they know that answer right offhand. But I can tell you that our sites are designed to only accommodate our trucks and, of course, any fire requirements. But our trucks that come and refill our stations are smaller and more compact than the larger tractor trailers that would be seen on the highway. But
you're showing the Ruckersville facility as a similar example, and do I see this right, that the diesel pump canopy is the same height as the car canopy, and these are the diesel pumps over here?
Yes, those are the diesel pumps there at that facility, and it is about the same height. But I don't know that height right off the top of my head, and I'm trying to get that for you right now.
Aaron, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? This is Gordon.
Yeah, hey, Gordon.
Yes, so that height is 16 feet.
Okay.
But just to reiterate what Aaron was saying earlier, the facility is not designed to accommodate tractor trailer trucks. It'd be more likely to service landscaping trucks, dump trucks with low boys, but the turning radius and the type of dispensers that we have available would not accommodate a tractor trailer.
Okay. To the fire department's question, do you happen to know how much water you expect this facility to use on a typical day or maybe at a peak hour?
I don't have that at the tip of my tongue, but I could deliver that to you. I could get that to you pretty easily. I will tell you that it's the water that this type of facility uses is very minimal. You know, the amount of water we use per car, I think, is in the neighborhood of about 18 to 20 gallons per vehicle, where, you know, if you were doing it in your driveway with a hose, it'd be more like 40 gallons. And so the water requirement is somewhat minimal. And, you know, from an operations standpoint, running our business, it's really important to us that we, you know, it's an input cost that we keep that water demand down as much as possible, which is a big reason why we recycle it, aside from the environmental reasons.
I know that the water treatment plant at Todier Creek has plenty of capacity. We're not even using half of the water that they make. But the fire department's problem is about the flow and the pressure coming around specific lines and hydrants. So I will follow up and see if there's any kind of leak point in our system.
Yep, and I'd be happy to get you those peak demands.
Thank you. Some of the key questions that you didn't really speak to were about traffic safety at that intersection. And I don't work on traffic study review. I'm not a traffic engineer. Could Ms. Schlein and Mr. Schimpf talk a little bit about how you work with Albemarle County and VDOT in permitting to make sure that this intersection is safe if the project is approved?
Yeah, Matt, I think they're on. One thing you can see though while they're dialing in is the location of our entrance here. We've made sure that that is back away from the intersection, so there's ample room for queuing, as well as balancing out the shopping center across the street, the bank there across the street. And our main objective here is to set up a business to serve the existing traffic. You know, we're not as much a destination facility as other businesses, but it's more we thrive off the existing traffic and look for a spot that would help sustain and support an investment of this scale into business.
Mr. Revere, this is Jim Tachi. What would you say the percentage of traffic coming into your locations is relevant to the car wash, and if you had a drive-through? I'm just curious to know how relevant the traffic safety issue is to the special use permit.
I'm not sure on the drive-through, because again, that's one that we are just exploring and thinking about. So while we were looking at the car wash, we thought it would make sense. It's basically a thought that was triggered essentially in the COVID world. So we don't have hands-on data for that. And Gordon might know a little bit about the percentages of users on car washes versus other uses within the site.
Percentage aside, would you say, do you have a rough idea of how many vehicles coming through there, let's say on a busy weekend day when there's a lot of traffic or whatever, you know, maybe a Friday afternoon, how many vehicles you expect to service in peak hours?
Sure, I can speak to that. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, so the car wash, we've projected like 120 cars would be like a peak amount of vehicles that we could wash in a day. So that would break down to about 7 cars per hour, you know, depending on the hours of operation. But yeah, the car wash from a traffic standpoint would not be a significant, anywhere near as significant a draw as the station, which could have, you know, as many as 1,200 to 1,500 trips per day.
Thank you. And so the purpose of my question was not that I'm not concerned about traffic safety at that intersection, but again, for the purpose of this discussion, we're considering a special use permit. And what I'm attempting to do is illustrate that the traffic concern is not relevant to this special use permit. I don't want to go into too much detail on that during this discussion, just because I don't think it's
Thank you, Jim. That is accurate.
Do you want me to review the staff report?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you want me to review the staff report? Sure. Planning Commission also took a look at a staff report that we generated here in the town office evaluating the application. It has a few more facts that can speak to some of the resident questions that aren't in the owner's application. Again, the current zoning on the site is commercial. There's this group of red highway commercial oriented zoning that runs between Route 6 and Route 20 and also appears on Valley Street. The town zoning treats the downtown historic district a little bit differently from the uptown commercial center. You don't want a big box store on this block, but it would be more appropriate up where there's bigger roads and more parking. This is consistent from the zoning that's been in place since the shopping center was built in the 90s. This red area has not changed in size for a long time. We had a question about what kinds of uses are defined in that commercial district. We have that layout of restaurants and gas stations as by right uses in commercial, and the drive-through and car wash as special use permit. Town council did in the past have concerns about lots of fast food restaurants popping up in this area, and so we put the special use permit in place as a higher level of scrutiny for a drive-through. That's why this is looked at. The comprehensive plan alignment is important here because the comp plan came up at the public level. The comprehensive plan sets the town's land use vision for the future, and that's one of the strongest tools that I use in making a recommendation about whether or not a proposal fits. So the closest goal that I line this up with is this one in our economic development section, and it does call for additional commercial and retail development at the Uptown Commercial Center site, including but not limited to highway commercial establishments and new neighborhood scale shopping centers. We're not as interested in big box stores, large volume, really high square footage commercial establishments, but the highway oriented business is an economic development goal in our comprehensive plan. So certainly acknowledging things like environmental review, entrance corridor compliance, the building should look good and should fit in the community. But on balance, I recommended this as being appropriate in our comprehensive plan because of the type of business that it is and existing in our commercial zoning. Noting that I noted also that the site is currently vacant and zoned commercial. It had business activity there from the Coleman family businesses years ago, but has been vacant for some years. The site is about 3 acres, a significant size for a commercial parcel. Adjacent to the business are other commercial uses, a bank with a drive-through. The shopping center has another bank with a drive-through. The structural steel fabrication shop, not as high volume, but a commercial industrial type of business. There are residential lots on the side to the other sides with a buffer. This parcel does not actually touch Route 20, so their entrance has to be here on James River Road. Our ordinance calls for a commercial structure to be a certain distance from a house, and the site plan satisfies that with respect to the house that's to the southeast. Certainly nuisance impacts to consider with the special use permit. Will we have safe traffic movement? Will there be pedestrian safety, and do the hours of operation make sense? The applicant has not offered any special conditions, but Planning Commission certainly has the right to demand certain conditions as conditions on the special use permit. So overall, my staff impression is that it meets the comprehensive plan goals. They're using the existing entrances, maintaining all of the distance buffers. The car wash and restaurant are uses that we've heard about from public surveys as businesses that the public wants to see more of. There are certainly risks related to traffic, noise, and light nuisances. But I think that we can remediate some of that with the architectural review board and work with this group at the entrance corridor stage. They're not in the historic district, but part of the property is in the entrance corridor. So we can look at sign design and lighting on a part of their property. I'm happy to answer other questions at the staff level.
Now, what are the hours of operation for the car wash, or has that been determined yet?
I believe the answer is 24 hours.
I didn't hear him say that. It depends on the hours of operation.
This application has the gas pumps and the self-serve car wash operate 24 hours. The market operates 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. That is something that Planning Commission could apply conditions to. Questions from commissioners?
Commissioners, what, if any, certain specifications and contingencies would you like to see? Lindsay, Tom, Jim?
I mean, my major concerns are keeping the quality of the Scottsville community, ensuring that we maintain our dark sky at night, that the homeowners closest to the proposed site don't feel too inflicted by new business, while also bringing in Tiger Fuels and Tiger Markets as really a good partner for Scottsville, them being so community minded in the first place, and really seeing them embed themselves as an equal partner in bringing jobs, in supporting organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, maintaining the dark sky, like I've already said, and just really, you know, doing as much good in the community as is possible.
I don't have any specific questions, but I do just want to point out that my experience with the markets has been really just universally positive as they've started to crop up around Charlottesville. The staff are always well trained and professional. The sites are well maintained. I've been going there periodically for some time now to different locations as I make my way around town. So I've always been really happy with the way they conduct their operations. I have the same reservations towards any sort of chain coming into Scottsville as I think anyone else does. But I see what they do, and the fact that they're locally based kind of alleviates some of my concerns. Again, a lot of it, I want to reiterate this because I think it's important. I don't see an issue with a car wash and a drive-through. And that's what we're discussing right now, specifically that. They have the right to put the market in regardless. At this point, we have some control over what the site looks like, what the building looks like, things like that. And I think that is what is the constructive use of our time in speaking with the folks with Tiger who represent Tiger, is talking to them about things that we can do to make it fit the community better. So I think that's a good use of our time. But again, as far as I can see, I don't see any major issues with the car wash. I think that one of the things that actually I did have a question about, and I think we may have discussed it in our first meeting that we reviewed this plan. I am curious to know the time of operation, and maybe Aaron, you discussed this earlier, and I might have missed it. I had to step away for a minute, but what is the hours of operation for the car wash? What are the kind of lights that are operating during those hours of operation?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the hours of operation, standard hours of operation for all services is 5 to 11. And then we have the self-serve operations like the fuel pump and the wash is 24 hours. We will have minimum lighting only as need be. to abide by safety code and insurance and that type of thing. I hope that's answering your question. We will abide by all of the dark sky ordinances. You're kind of hitting that, and it was brought up just a second ago. Again, your requirements are same essentially as Albemarle County's there. So you're talking a 1/2 foot candle, at the property line, and we know we can do that, and we've done it, and we like to do that as well. We're not looking to light up a big bright neon facility, and we do use down lighting and those types of things. But if someone is going to come, there is going to be some minimum safety lighting that's just needed, period. And so we would have that. So hopefully that's answering your lighting and your operation questions.
Yes.
Can you remind me again, what were the number of car washes that you anticipated on a high traffic day for the car wash specifically?
Peak, we could do up to 120. We would be thrilled to see that happen in Scottsville. We don't think that it would be anywhere near that number. We're not sure, actually, but that would be the peak. So if you just simply divided that by basic daylight hours, you're looking at maybe 10 or 12 on a per hour basis. When you look at some of these car washes, you can really see the come and go. A little bit during the morning as people come and go from work. You got the lunch guys, and then you got the people going back home from work. Those are your hours. And for us, oftentimes after 6, it really drops off to just a few stragglers. Sure.
And the number of gallons used per car wash typically,
Yes, so we're going to double check this number for you. As Gordon said, sorry, I didn't have that right at hand. I was looking at it just for a second ago, but it's about 18 gallons as compared to, on average, if you use your own hose at home, it's usually more like 40 gallons. So it's very efficient on this, and this is the automated version and self-serves. So
gotcha.
And the self-serves are the ones that are timed. You put your coin in, and you got your time. Okay.
Right. And then Matt, I know you said we're under capacity with the water utilities in Scottsville, but doing the math there, just on a high traffic day, we're talking about nearly 2,200 gallons of water. Is that still something that we feel we can maintain?
That's 1 or 2% of our water capacity.
Okay.
And we'll recycle up to 60% of it, just remember.
Okay.
So, 3 things that I wanted to comment on as what I saw on the Facebook post about maintaining the trees, those beautiful old trees. Just wanted to put that out there. People are going to be sad to see the house go. And someone else was in favor of the electric vehicle charging station.
True.
So I just wanted that on record.
It was a lively Facebook conversation with a couple hundred interactions, so that does help us a lot.
We're getting a couple of comments pop up on Zoom here. I would just remind folks that we've closed the public hearing portion, and we are limiting discussion now to Planning Commission.
We will save those for consideration later. At this point, Planning Commission could offer conditions. Your decision options are to make a recommendation to Town Council, yes or no, or yes with conditions. And if, for example, if the hours of operation on the car wash were concerned, you could apply that condition.
Yeah, we have 60 days or 90 days from the public hearing to make a decision?
90 days from the public hearing, sir.
Okay. So as the chairman, I do not have voting power. I make suggestions. My suggestion would be to wait to vote until we have the answer for the water pressure, which, as was stated by Tim Carr, after about 2 hours, the fire department says that they run out of water. That would be some pretty pertinent information to have. that would
I'd like to just add that there's some outstanding items that Aaron, you mentioned you were going to look into, and Gordon mentioned you was going to look into. I think it would be helpful if you would be able to provide that to us so that we can provide that to the public, and we can kind of facilitate some continued discussion on this, and as we look to vote in an upcoming meeting.
Other planning commissioners? Lisa, what are your thoughts?
I agree with this. No, I mean, certainly the fire suppression and firefighting is an essential part of our community services. We should find out about that.
Does anyone on the applicant's team have an answer on the fire flow at the hydrant, or do we know the size of the line running by the facility? I know that the property is served by current utilities. Do you know what size line that is or the pressure on it?
Hey Matt, Justin Shemp here, the engineer. I think we do have a map of that, and Kelsey can bring that up. I don't have it handy, but just as some reference, fire flow is a whole different sort of apples and oranges comparison to any kind of service. You know, a fire hydrant might flow 800, 900, 1,000, 1,200 gallons per minute, the flow rate, whereas typical commercial use maybe 20, 30, 50 gallons per minute at the most. So you're talking about 2 hours of 1,000 gallon per minute flow is going to be a pretty serious taxing on a system. But you know, if our peak flow rate at any given time is 50 gallons per minute, that's only when the car wash is running, we really don't have an impact on fire flow. Those two are not even really considered as items. You don't calculate them together because they're essentially so different in magnitude in a situation like this. So our connection for a car wash wouldn't impact the fire flow.
The entire business uses 2,000 gallons per day. When the fire department is responding to a big call, they use 2,000 gallons per minute. So you're saying those are totally different, and the car wash doesn't impact, your claim is that the car wash does not impact fire flow.
That's correct. Yeah, you would not consider any sort of domestic commercial loads for a car wash or a house or anything like that in comparison to fire flows, because they're in such a difference in magnitude.
If the fire department has a problem with their storage tank not being big enough, that's a separate infrastructure question that we have to work on with the service authority and get them a bigger tank at the top of the hill. But
that would be correct. It'd be a storage issue or a pressure issue in the system somewhere. Kelsey reports that a 12-inch water line in front of the site. So that's a substantially sized water line. So if the fire department runs out of water, it's probably a storage tank issue more than anything else, because that should be adequate to flow as much water as you would need for any kind of firefighting.
The tank is not very far away from this location, maybe half a mile up near Mr. Snotty's house. Is part of the flow problem that there's not very much drop between the tank and this location?
That could be, or it could just, what would happen is essentially is the tank is empty, right? So you open the fire hydrants and you start fighting a fire, you start filling up tanker trucks, then the level in the tank drops. As the level in the tank drops, the pressure then diminishes. So that would be fitting what was described by the member of the public earlier. So that is a possible scenario, but that would be, again, unaffected by the car wash as a use.
That makes sense, and I go by there and I know they don't maintain that tank totally full, and part of the reason for that is we're only using about half of our water supply, so the water gets stale if it stays in the tank too long, so they can't keep it all the way full. It's a situation where if we actually had more use, they could keep the tank more full because it would turn over faster. Does that make sense?
That's correct. That's a typical problem of small water systems is that, in fact, you have pipes and tanks that can be oversized because they were based on some estimated usage that never came to be. And so while for maximum fire flow, you'd want the tank full, that would lead to stale water, which it produces some disinfection byproducts that happen that makes the water taste bad, essentially. It can be harmful as well. So that's the reason that they'd have to keep the tank at a diminished level. So in fact, if you were to increase your usage per day by some number, you would be able to increase the storage in the tank by an equivalent ratio.
Okay, I beg your pardon. I only run through that line of questions because it's the main outstanding item the Planning Commission had.
Question about the parade. I mean, I know that was. Stops off traffic for 2 hours in the morning.
Did everyone online hear all of that?
I think the microphone might have got muted at some point.
Went silent.
So my question was for Aaron and Gordon. Would you consider being a good neighbor and allowing the Scottsville 4th of July parade to go on, even though it might be impacting your business? Would you work with the parade organizers to see that can go on every year? As it's been, the lineup is in front of the business, and the folks are lining up for a few hours with their parade floats in the morning, so it might be blocking some of your business.
Oh yeah, we would very happily accommodate that. We've been proud participants in that parade for years. And a lot of our employees live down there and look forward to it every year. And so, yeah, absolutely, we'd proudly participate again and support that.
It's a pleasure, sir.
All right, commissioners. The floor is yours for decide a course of action.
I'm inclined to have a vote at our next meeting. I'd like to. Why don't I just make a motion to review our notes and any additional information we get from Tiger, and tentatively have a vote on this special use permit at our next meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Please add to our agenda next month for discussion of application 153 James River Road.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. At this moment, I'm going to close all discussion regarding Tiger Fuel. I am also going to push us past West Downtown, and we're going to discuss new business. This is in regards to special use permit application at 350 Valley Street from Kevin Hoffman. If you would like, you may come join us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron, Gordon, Justin.
Hopefully see you next month.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Very sorry for the long wait.
That's
Thank
actually
you
been good. It's,
for being patient with us.
we get to learn about the town and cool. We get to meet some people. It's nice. We like it here, so it works out well. Can the folks on the line, are you able to hear me?
Yes, no problem.
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Okay, so just to start out, we love Scottsville. We lived in Stanton for a long time. I'm in the Army. I work at Fort Pickett, so I've been driving to Fort Pickett for years and years and years. Actually started to drive down 20 instead of going all the way down 64 to 288 outside of Richmond and going that way because we like the town. It's a great downtown. The river's great. Everything, the walkable kind of historic nature of the downtown is what we like. So even, recently I got transferred down to Fort Pickett, and Kristen, my wife, she maintained the yoga studio in Stanton for a while. So sometimes we would meet here, we'd have dinner at the Bateau, or we'd go down to the river and we'd do the things in town. So unfortunately, there's often times where we wanted to stay downtown, but there's not a whole lot of accommodations in town. So recently we have an opportunity. We put a contract on a place that the Childress family owns. It's 350 Valley Street. It's got a 2-bedroom apartment upstairs, and it's commercial downstairs. And we'd like to put in an Airbnb in that upstairs apartment. Now, we do have a little bit of experience. When we left Stanton, we currently have an Airbnb in process. So we do know a little bit about how to do it. We're super hosts, so we maintain, in order to be a super host, you have to maintain a certain rating, and you can't have cancellations and things like that. So we have another property that we own in Cape Charles, which is, both of these places are historic districts because that's what we like. I mean, there's, historic districts, they're a great piece of America, and we enjoy spending time in places like that. Also, it's really good to bring in, Airbnbs are great to bring in people to support these local downtown businesses. You see, there's nothing more tragic than seeing some of these downtowns that haven't been able to revitalize. We spent some time in Luray. Luray is a great old town, but we just haven't been able to revitalize that downtown district. And so Scottsville, it's close to the house. Again, we live in Blackstone. It's about an hour and a half, and so the contract is contingent on the special use permit here in Scottsville.
Okay.
So that's our pitch.
Do you want me to show the application that you did?
Sure. And I used to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals down in Cape Charles, so I'm used to these types of meetings. And the biggest thing for us was parking.
Yep.
Because Cape Charles has no place to park.
That's right, and that's the reason that the tourist lodgings requires a special use permit in our commercial district.
Right.
What the Airbnb use, we treat it like a traditional bed and breakfast. We don't distinguish in how the booking happens.
Okay.
So it's a tourist lodgings.
Sure.
In the most rural part of town, where the lots are bigger and the houses are out in the woods, tourist lodgings are by right.
Right.
We expect that there's lots of parking and people come and go, no problem.
Sure.
In the rest of town, it's by special use permit. So the same kind of process that you've seen
Sure.
this evening.
That makes sense.
You're talking about the tourist lodgings just in the apartment area upstairs?
Yes.
And you have by right commercial uses on the downstairs. You haven't told us what kind of retail shop or office or anything like that you want to do, but you're proposing to do by right commercial on the ground floor.
Yes. Yes.
Can I just weigh in real quick here? I'll tell you right now, I'm not in favor of Albemarle County's strict rules regarding Airbnbs. I'm a huge fan of them. So I just want to say that before we go into too much of a sales pitch, which sounds like you guys have a great story behind this and a lot of enthusiasm, and I'm excited to hear that you're super hosts. I just want to say I'm generally in favor of any sort of Airbnb in town, as long as there isn't some strange reason why it would be an issue with the town, and I can't see any reason why this location would cause any problems with the town. So I'd love to hear from folks in the Planning Commission. If any of you have any concerns, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't approve this. I'd like to hear if there's anything anyone has specifically to voice on that.
No, I'm totally with you, Jim. I mean, I feel the same exact way, and even in my own conversations with my husband or other people, that's kind of the first thing that comes to my head is that the town really could use some lodging, because especially during the summer, I mean, I look at Scottsville as being somewhat of the ultimate summer town, with the river and having the brewery and having the restaurants. And, I have spoken with a number of people that come through town just for the day, or, you know, who are coming from Richmond or just kind of driving on through. And why not have an option to a place to stay right in town where you can walk outside and then cross the street and go over to the brewery. So, you know, the facts that you guys are super hosts, and this is not your first rodeo as far as Airbnb is concerned. I'm totally all for it myself. So,
Lisa, do you have any?
I completely agree.
Awesome.
Your next step would be the public hearing stage. This is new business here now. Okay. The special use permit requires a public hearing, similar to what we just did. So if Planning Commission wanted to move this ahead with no further questions, we could advertise a public hearing for next month.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
The only other thing I was going to say, I mean, considering that there is a commercial aspect to this building, I really strongly hope that you guys really take the opportunity to use that commercial space and fill it in a way that is consistent with the town's wants and needs, and not just purely look at the Airbnb portion of it, but really try and help us fill out some of that space on Valley Street as well.
Yeah, that's great input, and that's exactly what we're looking to do.
One thing I'd like you to come prepared to talk about is maintenance of the property. A lot of those buildings have maintenance issues. It sounds like you guys take that seriously, but I'd like to hear a little bit about what your plans are to upgrade if anything is required, and just general maintenance on that. We don't need to talk about that now, but I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we have a public hearing. Matt, can we pick a date for that? It would just be our next meeting.
That would be our next meeting.
Yes, sir. November 2nd.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a public hearing to address a special use permit at 350 Valley Street for an Airbnb at our November 2nd Planning Commission meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jim?
Yes, aye.
Okay, thank you. Opposed? Motion passes. Please have that added to our agenda. Would you also make a note to have that before the 153 vote?
Sure.
Thank you. That way you don't have to sit through that again. Very sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I will now move to, I will close discussion on, wrong thing, here we go. We are closing discussion on 350 Valley Street. We are now going to move back to the West Downtown Small Area plans. Jim, at your prerogative, are you looking for discussion and vote tonight, or would you like just discussion?
So I was actually putting this on the agenda so that we could have an opportunity to vote to approve it. However, it became necessary to make some more changes. We will have one more edit that will be submitted to Planning Commission prior to our next meeting. At that point, I'd like to have on the agenda to vote to approve or to modify the small area plan. I'm hoping that we have it ready to go, and I'm hoping everyone has a chance to review it beforehand.
Okay. Planning commissioners, do I?
We need a public hearing for that, right?
No. So we fall within the 60 days, right? No, we do not. Or do we need to have separate?
It's unclear. This document has the status of a comprehensive plan amendment, and the state code on comp plan amendments requires a public hearing before you recommend any change out. You had a public hearing on the West Downtown Small Area Plan back in June. That satisfies the legal requirement for one public hearing. There's a little bit of ambiguity over how much can a draft change before it becomes a totally different document. If you'd like to have another public hearing on it, since you're talking about waiting a month and already having a public hearing on other business, you can certainly have another public hearing.
My recommendation would to be hold another public hearing, as we have had issues before with wordings for public hearings. So to make sure our ducks in a row, having that new updated document.
I'd like to just weigh in here. We've had a lot of public feedback. I would like to hear maybe if Matt, Tom, Mr. Bowling would be able to get together and review the need for any additional public hearings. Anyone who has wanted to have feedback on this has had an opportunity to participate in the special committee. We've had a lot of feedback at this point. And there's been a lot of outreach to get people involved in that. So anyone that had any specific interest has probably already participated. I'm not saying that we don't have a public hearing if we need to, but if we don't need to, I prefer to move this on to town council at the risk of certain people who really want to keep editing this document over and over again. I want to stop that, at this point without any fresh reason to get public input from that. So maybe the town council wants to have a public hearing. I don't know. Unless it's necessary, I'd like to move this forward.
The reason I would be asking for a calling of another public hearing is the legality. We are past the date for what would constitute the first public hearing that we had. So
but that goes back to my point is if Matt and Jim and Tom, whoever review that and it's necessary, of course, absolutely, we need to have a public hearing. But if it's not legally required, I don't want to have it for the sake of having it. That's my point.
You still have to be at your next meeting and call another vote.
Yes.
That's the ambiguity that Matt was speaking about. Josh, the timeline that you're referring to, I believe only holds true for outside applications like the special use permits that we were dealing with tonight. Plans generated by the town don't carry the same legal timeline to move them along in the same sort of way. There's no responsibility to be responding to an applicant.
That's right. It's not a self-imposed deadline.
So if it doesn't matter, we can move forward. It's just.
That's correct.
So is there any reason why we can't move forward with the changes that we agreed to in this afternoon's meeting, and we make those changes and that's what we're agreeing to and moving forward to the town council, or do we have to see the finished product?
If you wanted to recommend out the document that the subcommittee worked on today, you could do that. If you wanted to wait longer or do any further public outreach, you can do that too. But it would be legal for you to report out what you did today. The 90-day time frame, you'll remember, is from town council has to act on what planning commission sends.
Okay, so it's council.
Yeah, once planning commission sends something to town council, they can't ignore it. They have to have a vote on it within 90 days.
Right.
But the public hearing that you did in June counts.
Okay. Well, with that being said, do we have a motion to approve or deny or?
Well, so we need to have a motion to review a final edited document at the next planning commission meeting.
Yes.
We can have a vote at the next meeting because we're going to have edits after this evening's meeting.
Yeah, so I mean, since I was not obviously at the editing meeting today, what I'm assuming is what we have now or what we've moved towards is a fairly finalized document, aside from some minor editing such as dotting I's and crossing T's. And as long as there are no glaring omissions or otherwise, that is the document we're saying, yes, we're ready to hand this off to town council. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes. So if planning commission reviews the document that Matt sends out prior to our next meeting, I would like to have a vote at the next meeting to approve it and pass it to town council. If there's errors and we need to revise it, then that's fine. That's what we need to do. But it was my hope that we addressed all those errors at tonight's meeting prior to the regular session, and so that when we go to November's meeting, we can vote to approve and pass it on.
Right. So perfectly. I mean, so that way, the new document as it exists will get passed around. Everybody can take a final read through, and that should hopefully be it. And then come this time next month, we can say, here you go, town council.
Exactly. And actually, as one final matter in relation to that, just as a technicality, I do want to make a motion that we conclude business of the special committee that reviewed the small area plan effective today. So there won't be any other meetings. That's what I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
Do I hear a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, then
Committee has been disbanded.
Okay. And then that's just so that we don't have any question as far as who wants to get back involved in editing the document at this point. If the planning commission decides at the November meeting that they want to make more changes, that's fine. Then we do that. But otherwise, if the planning commission is satisfied, then we move it to town council. That's what I'd like to see happen.
Perfect.
Sounds good. And with a huge thank you to all of the volunteer help that
yes
we've received in the past month. We would not be at this point without many person hours of dedicated volunteer help. Past planning commissioners, planning professionals. We even had an Albemarle County planning commissioner with years of expertise in this kind of work help us with it. And I really do appreciate all of that help. And this plan is in a much stronger place than it was in June.
Yes. We got a lot of really good expertise, from folks, just a ton of good stuff. I mean, yeah, really helped.
And really, thanks to you, Matt, for really putting that work in on that last rewrite. I mean, just it's kind of magical what you did to it. So thank you. Thank you.
I agree.
I just want to chime in there, Matt. That was an awesome rewrite. And I know I said it in an email, but you really did an outstanding job, man. Looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sean.
May I say something? Who is the chair of the planning commission?
That would be me.
Who's that, Josh?
Yep.
Yeah, Chris. I'm sorry, Josh. May I have a moment to speak? In just full disclosure, I'm the realtor that represents the seller of the building, which the Hoffmans, Kevin Hoffman, is purchasing. And it's to say that I have a note here on Matt's request. Stop me if I should not be speaking here.
I don't know what you're about to say.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can't really stop you because I don't know. I did conclude all business regarding 350 Valley Street. If you would like, you're welcome to call or leave me a note here at the office.
That's fine. I will just submit the letter you had asked for, Matthew, about the consent from the sellers. That's all I had wanted to do.
Yes, thank you. That is one of the due diligence items on the application.
I got it. I'll get it to you.
The owner consents to the use. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are we prepared to make a motion to adjourn?
Well, I want to just make it clear for record that our course of action for small area plan is to defer until next month after visiting the document between planning commissioners, and then we will take a vote.
Okay.
Everybody all right with that?
Yes.
And we will celebrate with a bottle of champagne.
Yes.
I'll share the draft around, but I won't order up newspaper ads.
Just maybe not here at the town office, if a book is not alcohol consumption on government property.
Well, I'll still be calling in from home, so I'll have my own personal bottle.
Party at your house, Scott. Everybody got that? Lindsay, party at her house?
Together.
Okay, so I am going to call for a motion for adjournment. We're going to start having the motions for that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. You guys really need to start making better use of my favorite phrase in these meetings, which is "so moved." It's so official sounding, and nobody ever says it. Josh always sets you guys up, and nobody so moves.
Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Bye.